900,000 people out of poverty. We lifted seniors out of poverty. We're putting more money in the pockets of students. And we're seeing over 1 million jobs created, most of them full-time over the past year. But there is over the past 4 years, but there is so much more to do.
Welcome to Canadian
and that is what
Parliament.
we have to stay focused on, because the fight against climate change, the fight for the future of our economy matters, and that's the choice.
Yeah, he's talking here.
Monsieur Blanchet, yes,
we have completely mischaracterized our response to the climate emergency as something that somehow doesn't help the economy. You have the biggest global economic opportunity in the history of humankind in moving off fossil fuels as quickly as possible. But then you're keeping fossil fuels going because your target is exactly half of what's required. If this election is anything, it's about trust and ethics, and we are in a climate emergency. We need grown-ups in the room.
Hey, Kevin, how's it going, buddy?
Mr. Blanchet.
Mr. Singh said that he wants to fight for Canadians, and that's a good point. Who do we want to fight for? I want to fight for Quebecers, and Quebecers only. If we agree with the Canadian government, then let it be. If we don't agree, we're going to fight. And this is what Bloc Québécois has always done, and I can't wait pour avoir ces gens-là dire en français ce qu'ils vont dire en anglais aujourd'hui, jeudi.
Ils vont le faire. Monsieur Scheer.
The fact of the matter is, under Justin Trudeau, life will continue to get more expensive. He will continue to raise taxes. His carbon tax will go up. He's afraid to tell you how much it will go up by. Under the Conservative plan,
the Conservative
balance
plan.
the budget, protect core services,
Let's let
and
Mr.
lower
Trudeau,
taxes for all
Mr. Trudeau, 5 seconds to respond.
Our price on pollution helps Canadians more than removing it does.
Okay.
Climate emergency.
That's it. Thank you. That brings us to the end of this segment and to the end of this debate. We want to thank all of you, of course, for taking the time. Our questioners
It actually
tonight.
went... so we're going to bring it back, guys, here. So who are you guys voting for? Let's just play this thing right through. Let's bring it up to speed here. Sorry, guys, if you're tuning in. So it's happening, guys. The Canadian elections are here. We are, I don't know, several weeks away from the elections, and a week and a half, almost 2 weeks away. And it's going to be a very astonishing, historical election. Kevin Worthington says he likes Scheer. So do I. I believe in Andrew Scheer. So welcome to Canadian Politics here with Mike Martins here. We're going to recap the elections, the electoral debates here in Canada that were happening earlier today. What a gorgeous day we're having today, guys. That's why I was kind of late. I'm going to open my window and let some fresh air in here. It's so nice out today. Just an absolutely beautiful day we're having. Open my window here. Let some air in. Sounds like fireworks in the background there. So if you're just tuning in, guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. So, nobody likes Trudeau, buddy. Don't worry about it. The umpire's post is listening to us in the background. So we got Canadian elections, which is very important because, let's face it, Canada is the second biggest country, or first or second biggest country on the planet. And it's kind of important, you know, where they kind of position themselves in the term of minerals, exports, natural resources. We produce a not too big, but a big enough percentage of the Earth's fresh air, right? So we're going through this where people are arriving in huge numbers here. I think here is everyone wants Jagmeet here. Then you got Liberal supporters here. I'm not seeing any blue whatsoever for Conservatives. Oh, there's a big scissor here for Conservative cuts. Liberal, Catherine McKenna, Liberal. So a lot of people are chanting 4 more years. Okay, there we got the Conservatives on the other side here. It's like a soccer stadium. They divide the red and the blue so there's no scraps. It feels staged, says Gunter. Yeah, it kind of does with this. It kind of looks like it's. Then you got a little bit of block back here. And then you got some Scheer around here. You got some block over there. Then you got a little bit of Liberal in there. And then you got a more Scheer, more Scheer, more Scheer. Then you have a lot of Liberal here. And then you got a bit of Green Party there in French there. Vert. Vert is, I hope it's green, because in Portuguese it's green. In Spanish it's verde. And it's green there. All Jagmeet over here. And then we got Make Andrew Canadian again. Oh, there's Make Andrew Canadian again. can't see what that says. Conservatives and yeah, and there's a Earth there. Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah, red carpet and pigs. Red carpet for pigs like they are. Celebrity says 26. Gunther. Woo! Well, we're doing election recap here. The election debate just ended. We caught the tail end of it at the beginning of the show for the first 3 minutes. Let's recap it. It just finished, so everything's fresh on the lips here and fresh on the ears. So we got one to save on the world's. Let's talk about third world overpopulation. Bernier was weak in the debate, I thought. I had to admit. Yeah, you see, the thing is, a lot of them had a lot of chances. The Conservative Party had a lot of chances to land a lot of good haymakers. Kapow, kapow, lots of haymakers. And you know how these things work out. Everybody starts taking their turn talking, then everyone starts talking at the same time, then everyone starts yelling over each other. And that's how Canadian parliaments work. So welcome to the 4 more deers. Yeah, we got people in the comment section rolling in, guys. Timing's good for this live stream. So this is a replay, guys, of the what we saw earlier today. So let's kick it off straight to the debate, guys. Let's get to the bread and butter. Let's see. Okay, let's see who's arriving here. Oh, there you are. Talks a little bit to the cameras, paparazzi. So that's the Bloc Party there. All right.
4 more years. 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 4 more years.
Let's see, there's another party coming in here.
We must talk about that.
Let's see who's showing up. There's a lot of moderators there too, and was that a big needle? Yeah, it's a syringe. Probably the representation of healthcare, I guess. Why is there even a Quebec party running nationally? And Andre Nicotina saying. Steve Stevens says the Bloc wants no pipeline in their province, but where are they buying the oil from? Good question. So we got the green people here. The green. There we go. A parliament building right there. Been standing there probably since the late 1800s. So it looks like very evenly balanced. A lot of people. Oh, look at her! She's chanting for Trudeau. There's a girl with an American flag here too in the front. There's the Trudeau ringleader there. There she is with the megaphone there. Are they singing the national anthem? Are they singing the national anthem with all our sons command? Because we have to change our national anthem because people Toba. It's not Manitoba anymore, okay? I'm not going to argue with anyone on this show anymore. It's not Manitoba. It's people Toba. There she is, the 4 more years girl. Yes, Kevin Worthington is in Peoplehattan. He's not in Manhattan. Peoplehattan. See, Kevin knows what the heck's going on. He's totally on the ball with the rest of us here. Jagmeet Singh there. We got a little bit of Scheer here. Scheer majority. Are we going to have conservatives, old conservatives, the old conservative guard come out and vote? Are we going to have conservatives this year that haven't voted in I don't know how many years are going to probably unglue themselves from those reclining chairs and get out and actually vote? So guys, if you're just tuning in, we're actually doing a backtrack or a playback on the Canadian debates that just happened. I just caught the tail end at the beginning of the show. Backtrack the damn thing. We're going to watch it fresh. We're going to make Andrew Canadian again. Everyone keeps putting that up. Oh, there's Carbon Face there. Is that Carbon Face there? Middle class over the 1%. Scheer, do not list zero. Scheer, scrap any commitment. Liberals, no liberal. There's no liberals there. It doesn't look like a lot of people. It looks like it's kind of staged, like someone said in the comments early. There's not enough millennials to go out and tip the vote. But they're mixed, man. It's mixed. It's red and orange with NDP and the blues at the end there, right? So, guys, tell me in the comments. Let me get 3 right guys on here on the show to ask them what the heck is going on. Let me see where he's at there. 3 right guys. He's right now in Toronto, and hopefully he's not going to swear, because I don't like when he swears. But if we could get him on the show here, 3 right guys, where are you? I think it's 3 right guys. Where are you?
Hey, Mike.
What's up, dog?
You know, it's kind of actually impressive that they got everyone getting along there in that pickup line. It's pretty mixed, and there's no police separating everybody.
Well, I mean, we're supposed to be kind of respectful to each other when it comes to parties. I mean, the whole point is to kind of not kick each other around, because isn't it free speech? Isn't it the way it flies? Isn't that supposed to be like that?
No, there is no free speech anymore.
Or it's censored or semi-censored.
If you don't agree with me, then I just shout you down and call you a racist, right?
No, but I mean, everybody, like you said, everyone's getting along, and that's fantastic. That's what I want to see, right? But is this staged?
Oh, it looks super staged. Like, look at it. Do you really see conservatives anymore standing out without a police presence? Like, they're always dividing everybody now, because this doesn't look normal to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It almost looks like an award ceremony for like whatchamacallit, like an Oscar award with the red carpet and everybody walking in and talking to reporters as they walk in.
Like these politicians are like, oh yeah, I'm a celebrity.
Yeah,
it's kind of a joke, isn't it?
Jane Doe in the comments saying yes, it's staged. This is funded.
Oh yeah, you can tell. Like I said, look how well they're. If there was actual support going on, there'd be fist flying right now between those liberals and the conservatives. Like if there was an actual, that this wasn't staged or everyone wasn't getting paid down there, I can almost guarantee you, because things are so polarized at this moment. There'd be hands down. There'd be people fighting. They'd have to have the RCMP come in there and
I'm
stuff.
not seeing any construction workers. I'm not seeing anyone invest. I'm not seeing anybody. No. It looks like a bunch of kids from school basically took the day off.
Some Americans to come do some fake filler.
Well, Captain America's there, so he's American.
It's just a little odd, isn't it?
Yeah, Captain America's there. I see him.
Waving an American flag. Like I said, almost looks like some people from the U.S. were bust in.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks way too mild, too, to be real.
Yeah, everyone's nicely dressed too, and perfectly trimmed, and I don't know. It could be legit. It could be just a bunch of like local workers from the area and a couple of high schools. Just not even a couple, maybe half a high school showed up. There's quite a few American flags too.
No, if it was younger people, like I said, it would be more like the even if.
Let's just pretend and be happy one time, and this is not going to obviously sway anybody to vote. No one's going to be swayed by any of this. This is just a little bit of support for their party members, and
Well, it looks very small too.
It does. It looks like there's about maybe 140 people there. Maybe 220, 220 max.
I think less than 100. I don't know.
Yeah, they could be layering it. They could be layering it too. But it looks like a lot of high school and college kids.
Well, it's the young people that are being screwed the most with the liberal policies and the globalist policies. It's the people that are benefiting the most are actually the older gentlemen because they're seeing all their assets go up every time they do a round of printing money.
But we got. It looks like it was Rob Ford mask. Somebody was wearing a Rob Ford mask there.
Oh, yeah, they're upset about the
there's
cut.
nobody there. There's nobody there.
I remember back in the day in high school, the teachers always saying, we're out fighting for you when they go on protest and they were on striking.
Mm-hmm.
What a load of bollocks that always was.
Look, it looks like a class is leaving. It looks like a class is leaving. Look, they're all single file leaving together.
Yeah, the teachers, they're complaining about the cuts. I really couldn't care about them because all they do is indoctrinate the children these days.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a bus showing up. It looks like somebody's showing up here. It looks like Conservative Party is showing up here.
Well, if some actual
it's Scheer showing up.
Breakdown.
But apparently, he didn't. Why didn't Scheer land any haymakers in this debate? That's what I'm concerned about. Why were there no haymakers?
I have not watched the debate, but the thing with Andrew Scheer, he's a very meek, warm, weak leader for as far as like conservatives go. Like if it was Max Bernier, then the gloves would be coming off. Mm-hmm. But the problem with Scheer is he's too afraid to say anything controversial from the left, which makes him very weak. And that's like, what's the point of even voting for him? He's get afraid. Like they're like, how the liberals are very corrupt, right? Scheer's no different with the neocons. They'll still import hordes and hordes of foreign investors. That's always been a Conservative Party talking point. We're going to open up Canada. It's a foreign investment. They're gonna import hordes of more workers for side quote businesses. They're not doing anything from a nationalist agenda side. Like for a lot of us, the populist, right? I have no reason to vote for Scheer. I'd rather vote for Trudeau and watch the dumpster fire get worse until they put someone that I'll actually vote for. And
yeah.
Max,
there's a lot of people saying vote him in and crash it.
Vote for Trudeau, let it crash, or even better, vote for the NDP guy. Get your free money check and then dump the dollar, and then just watch the country basically evaporate and burn. And while the Liberals are at the helm, you can blame it all on the left, and then we can use that to the advantage to put someone a little bit more hardlined on the right. Because Scheer, what is Scheer? Well, I haven't seen a single thing. One of his policies is going to make my life any better than it is right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, everyone's saying that Scheer, saying that on CTV News, Troy McClure is saying that Andrew Scheer won the debate.
It wouldn't be hard to win a debate with these school children from the left right now, with the NDP leader and all the insanity that they're trying to provide. Like, if you actually had a right winger that went on the debate and was running on the national federal election, it would be very easy to attack. Even to attack their liberal policies, all I would have to do is go on stage and be like, let's talk about the debate of housing crisis. And then I just wait for all my opponents on the left to talk about what their solutions are. We need to build more affordable housing. And then I'll be like, how many units? Well, we need to make at least a sizable investment of maybe 1,000 or 2,000 in BC. And how much is that going to cost? Multiple millions and millions of dollars that we don't have and put us in debt. Okay, fine. How many immigrants are coming to this country every month? Vancouver area, 10,000. Okay, every month. So it's like what, 100,000 people? Okay, that's why you're an idiot. Let's close down the border right now. Then you want to help the people, or do you not, or do you just want to write us into debt so your rich friends can more expunge from the wealth from the middle class and working class? Like, whose side are you really on? And you would just hit them with hard stuff like that, and you would silence them. Because what is the comeback? You're a racist. And I'd be like, hey, good. We all knew you were going to call me a racist. Or I would even put in, you're going to call me a racist after I say this, and then he does it, and then you just trap him. There's no comeback to that.
Well, we got AV1611 in the comments saying we need someone more to the right. Sheer appeals to those who voted in Trudeau.
Yeah, it's true. But the thing is, Scare's good. What is he going to do for us? In reality, he's not going to make the situation any better. He's just going to prolong the debt spiral that this economy's on. He's going to prolong it. I don't want to have another prolonged another decade of this Mickey Mouse Keynesian economics. I'm sick of it.
Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is probably the best way you could put it without offending anyone and being called a racist.
Well, that's what it is. Propping up each other's economies, all fraud.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really want to see a neocon. I would rather see Trudeau or NDP get in there and just dumpster ride it all the way down and burn it down to the ground as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know that's a harsh thing to say, but like the slower the death that this economy takes to finally cleanse itself is the way worse it's going to be for everybody in the long term.
It is.
It
is
harder to fall, and it's going to kill us. And it's just wasting years of our lives away that we could be more productively making and living prosperous lives. So like the sooner the dumpster fire is done, the better. And that's why I'm not going to be voting for Scare, and I'm not supporting any of my friends to be voting for him either. I'd be telling them that we need to accelerate the collapse, and I'd rather go with. I don't think NDP leaders get a win, but I'd be voting for Jasmine String if anything.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in America. A lot of Trump's base, after seeing that he had yet to put up the border wall, he's yet to do much of substance other than start all these different trade wars. A lot of people were switching from the Trump camp to the Andrew Yang camp. Mm-hmm. You know, the Yang Gang meme was coming out because he was talking about that freedom dividend. And, you know, they know that economics is not going to work, but all those people were going to do is take that money, dump it, buy harder assets, and watch the dollar devalue and disintegrate. Mm-hmm. And then after it's disintegrated, be like, well, I was spending my freedom dividend on this, and now it's worth 10, 100x more because the dollar is so worthless. And now let's put in our guy while everyone's riding and take advantage of all that chaos. Mm-hmm. But yeah, look how mild this stuff is. It doesn't look like anything you see anymore. Like, and even the liberals can't get along with other liberals anymore, right? So it's even weird just seeing the NDP mixed in with the liberals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Andrew, make Andrew Canadian again is all over the place there.
What is that even supposed to entail to? Like I must have missed something. Is it something to do with his birth?
No, apparently he's dual citizen, American Canadian.
Well, why would liberals of all people care about dual citizenship? You'd think that I have trouble understanding their logic. Mm-hmm. Hey, maybe there's a right there. Maybe there's a Chinese agent right there from the CPP because they were handing out the Liberal Party.
Yeah, they were. They were in Vancouver, and there's huge clashes in downtown Vancouver right now. Huge between pro-Hong Kongers, and we're talking about real Hong Kong Chinese and real Hong Kong mainland Chinese, and they're battling. People are thinking, oh, the people are dividing themselves between that in Canada. No. It's actually the Hong Kong Chinese and the mainlanders, because Vancouver's the lower mainland of BC, lower mainland, is primarily pretty much Chinese, and they are pretty much ripping each other apart in downtown Vancouver right now.
Bigger than this. Their rallies are bigger than this.
Oh, way bigger than this. This is Mickey Mouse. This is Mickey Mouse.
Hey, there's look right there. You got Pinocchio right there with the big lying nose.
Oh yeah. What do you think of the girl with the megaphone?
She looks like an American.
Yeah.
She doesn't look Canadian at all. If you personally ask, it looks like an American agitator, like I said. Mm-hmm. You can kind of get good with spotting these people over the last couple of years, I guess, right? Mm. She looks like an American that probably shipped in from New York or something.
Yeah. So you're thinking, in your opinion, that if Trudeau gets reelected, that it will just bring it down the House of Cards faster.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what I believe.
Okay. I just want to know what your I know where you stand on all this. And your logic makes absolute perfect sense when you want to kind of push the reset button a little quicker.
Yeah, Jagmeet Singh though, I think he could push it even faster. He's like one of those extremists from like Warren was it Warren Elizabeth in the U.S.
Oh, you talking about Pocahontas?
Yeah, those other nut jobs. She's right up there with him.
Yeah, so she's basically the but you know what she actually said something that made a lot of sense. You know what she said?
What did she say?
Taking apart the Federal Reserve and picking apart these corporations and picking apart Facebook, picking apart all these conglomerates that shouldn't be basically controlling all this stuff and breaking it down. And I think she made a lot of sense with that. And that's why she's earned a few points at the poll, because she's making sense about the whole understanding. I think of all the people there that are running, I think Elizabeth Warren understands the deficits and the budgets a lot more than basically anybody else.
Oh no, she's the Democrat, corporate America's Democrat freaking lead guy right now. She's she's corrupted.
Oh, definitely. I mean, everybody's corrupted. But I'm saying she actually understands the financials better.
Yeah, but I don't think she's doing anything other than maybe like tax the rich some more. She's not going to bring some real change, but she's definitely she'll fuck up the economy a lot. Or sorry, excuse me. It's hard, but
no, you said she will muck up the economy more.
Yeah, sure. Well, she will be doing that, but she'll definitely mess it up. But there's some guy like the Andrew Yang guy, he'll completely freaking destroy it.
Yeah.
You know, you start talking like, but you know, here's the thing, because what they're all UBI. You know what is called, right? It's called helicopter money. Something that Ben Bernanke said that it was one of the options. Instead, he decided to go with the quantitative easing, which is making the rich richer, right?
Right.
Well, helicopter money is the opposite, where it makes the poor richer at the expense of the wealthy. So it basically steals wealth from the rich who are holding all these assets and then gives it to the poor, causing a massive amount of inflation. It's the reversal amount. So if you want the system to finally crash, well, we might as well get our cut, because the rich have been getting their cut for so many years, and we can fucking steal their wealth. And then what will the rich do? Well, what the rich will do, of course, is they'll try to convert their money, or they'll just offshore it, right? Accelerating that collapse in its own right as well. Not to mention,
someone's saying, oh my God, Trump will rip apart Pocahontas. Yes, I know that. I'm talking about what I'm trying to say is, of all the Democrats, she's the one that kind of, in my opinion, understands a little bit more when it comes to the deficits and spending. I think she understands and grasps it a bit more. Bernie Sanders wants to pay for everything. Andrew Yang wants to give people free money. So there's a lot of little different angles that the Democrats. That's why the Democratic Party right now is so divided, right? Same thing with the Liberal Party, and you got huge divides in the Liberal Party. They can't. Most of them don't see eye to eye, like you said. And same thing. Conservatives are kind of more united. NDP is kind of on the fence, back and forth. NDP is a bit on the fence and 80% unified, I think, in my opinion. But I think the Liberal Party is very divided, if you ask me.
Andrew Baker, he said UBI isn't helicopter money. I would ask him what's the difference between UBI and helicopter money. It's pretty much the same.
I'll get him on the show right after if he's awake.
Yeah, sure. He's in the comment section.
Yeah, he's in Australia. I don't know what time it is there, but I'd like to get him on the show because this is what's happening right now, and because UBI is pretty much the exact definition of what Ben Bernanke was describing when he said helicopter money was basically put money in people's bank accounts. Same thing as UBI, right? Yeah.
But I don't know. Jagmeet Singh, like, you remember how the polls were so bad against Trump, and the polls they just haven't been doing, like, they're really way off these days. Who's to say that goes to the banks to lend? No, you're thinking of QE policy. where they start buying up their junk assets and shit, and then increase the bank's balance sheets. And then while they're doing that, they're increasing their liquidity while adding a bunch of dead assets to the Fed's balance sheet. What is it? What is it? Yeah, I don't know. Jagmeet Singh, you never know. He might pull ahead all of a sudden, right? You might pull a tracker ahead on Trudeau, because I don't think these poll models, maybe they stopped working due to the fact of populism. They're not accounting for the extreme end of the bell curve that is slowly growing.
I just saw a guy, sorry, I know this is a little off topic, wearing a kilt.
What side was he on?
I don't know. He was wearing a kilt. That's actually pretty cool. Because a lot of them, those what do you call those? Celtics, those guys there, Celtic clans there in Ireland, they used to fight. Yeah.
I used to go to the Celtic games as a child with my nana in BC all the time. A lot of fun. So, did you watch the debates? I'm assuming. So,
no, I caught the last 11 or 15 minutes of it that I started setting up, and I thought it was going to go on for a bit longer, but it was really short. This introduction here goes on for 3 hours, and then the debate goes on for a lot less time. So,
did Trudeau actually show up this time?
Yeah, he did. He did. I'm going to play it through. I'll play it through here. I'll fast forward until after a little bit here. There's going to be a little bit of close time here, and I'm going to go right to the debate here. For people that missed it, it just ended how long I've been streaming. It ended 30 minutes ago, exactly 30 minutes ago. It just ended. So we've been talking for 30 minutes. We've been talking the time it's been off, but then it ended.
Yeah. So Trudeau actually showed up this time.
Yeah. Well, he has to.
He must have got annihilated.
Well, we're gonna find out in the next couple of minutes. I saw him towards the end. He was kind of quiet. It looks like it almost looked like he was gonna start crying.
Well, his policies have destroyed the working class, the middle class, and it's so easy to point out, even for the layman to understand. And he's done so many unpolitically incorrect things, and he's embroiled in so many corruption scandals. It's quite impressive. People used to call Harper corrupt, right?
Of course.
But here's the thing: I don't recall the last time Harper got caught so bad with his pants hanging down that NT Ave and all these different billionaires and all these different. The worst thing he did was do that deal with the biggest Canada's biggest oil company. He sold it to a Chinese state company.
That's right. That's right.
And it was behind closed doors for about 48 hours or something like that, where even the Parliament didn't have to get a say, and then it was done. That was the most corrupt thing, but I don't know. I don't know if that because we don't really. I'm not sure what happened. For all we know, that company was we're going to sell regardless, and maybe they were strong arming their position, and we just weren't aware. I have no idea. Or maybe there was some type of benefit, or maybe it was corruption. But that would be pretty broad. Even back then, that would have been pretty broad if that's what was going on. And I don't think really much came out of it, so I'm assuming there wasn't really anything that hot from it. But the stuff that's been coming out of Trudeau, you remember when he was visiting that Muslim billionaire on his private island, connected to Einstein and all these other crazy and then that guy had a bunch of government contracts with one of our major air companies. And then there was the NC-Lavalin, and then before that it was the Chinese billionaires. He was doing the pay to serve access or pay access. All these Chinese billionaires going out to dinner with them.
Yeah, that was especially if they're communists. It's like, wow, really?
There's some freaky stuff going on there for sure. And the blackface came out, him trying to basically subvert the rule of law with the prosecution investigation with SG-Lavalin. And then what else? Can you think of anything else that this guy's done?
The India trip was an absolute disaster.
Oh, that was
that made front page news in friggin' sorry, I said friggin'. In friggin' countries that don't even know where Canada is on the map. That made the front page of their papers.
And then he was hanging out with a terrorist.
Yeah, I heard about that too. It's like, what the heck, man? Yeah, but you know what? What's that guy? That guy that died there recently, not too long ago. He was hanging out with Al Qaeda and those guys. Took a picture with them.
And when he was bringing the refugees here, they weren't even properly vetted, even though they said they were.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were doing all sorts of crazy shit in the hotels here.
Yeah, they're the Somalian gangs.
Yeah, there was an American soldier that was visiting the hotel, and he said, "I wouldn't bring my daughter here, or any woman should be here. I don't think so, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And then they sent some undercover reporters, and they were threatening the locals that were doing the reporting. They're like, "We'll kill you, Canadians, if you come back here in our hotel." And I was like, "What the hell?"
Mm-hmm.
And then there was in the newspaper, some refugee was on a bus in Ottawa, and then she said that she saw her ICE.
Hello? Hello? Well, we lost connection here with the real German instincts here. Not sure what happened. Real German instincts. We just lost them. Let's see if we can get the Raven on out east. Come on, Raven, where are you? Let's see if he's alive. Probably working. He's probably at work. Yes. We lost you.
Yeah, the call dropped because I had a call on my phone and it just auto cut on me, and I was like, "What the hell?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, there was a woman that was on a bus and she saw her ISIS rapist,
Really?
kidnapper, on the same bus here in Canada.
Wow.
It was like this was a member of ISIS that you brought in here on the refugee program. So it was pretty obvious that they did zero vetting whatsoever. They just brought them in to look good, for politics, right?
That's very scary. Okay, we're going to let you go. We're going to see if we get someone else on the show. And, yeah, you're right about very strong points about what's been happening, especially your angle of who to vote for is a very strong, very good... Oh, one more thing I want to ask you. Why is climate change the biggest thing here? Climate changes. It's almost winter. Climate's going to change. What do they want? Summer all year? What's going on here? Tell us in 20 seconds. What do you think of climate change?
Oh, they want to take more. It's like Agenda 21. They want to increase our taxes.
Mm-hmm.
They want to take more of our rights. They want to cede more of our land property rights. That's where it's all headed, right? And they all want to cram us into the major cities, and they want to tax us to basically death.
Right.
If they care about climate change so much, why are the recycling plants wasting and just tossing our recycling stuff into the garbage? They're collecting billions of dollars in tax revenue from us. Why haven't they built any carbon removal plants?
Yeah.
They already have the technology to build plants right now that can remove carbon. Each plant can take about what an equivalent of 4 million trees can remove carbon dioxide from. So, like, if they care about taxing us to death, then why don't they spend those billions of dollars on actually removing the carbon from the air? We already have the technology for that. I don't see them spending that. It just seems like it's just a tax hole to increase our taxes so they can give to more of these no offense, but third world parasites, so that they can vote for them in more and slowly erode our country and take it over, and then enslave us and suppress the wages to the point where they can bring in the rich, sell our country out, get it out, and then bring in hordes of people and then suppress our wages to the point where we're already living in our cars. People are doing drugs and because they're so miserable and people are all upset, and our whole country is what we remember was.
It's kind of a New Zealand model. Most of New Zealand proper don't own. Most of New Zealand proper, a majority of foreign people own New Zealand, as opposed to the New Zealanders themselves. Everyone's sleeping in cars. Majority of people are sleeping. A good majority of previous homeowners or renters are now in cars. No one could afford to live, and people are being put up in hotels. And
or at least they just want to live like Dubai. They want to be the kings while we're the people building the towers and the skeletons as the slaves, right? And maybe they visited Dubai and all these other third world countries and they saw how their elites, look how many slaves we have. And they want to just basically enslave us here. And it doesn't matter that Western civilization and the culture built the pinnacle of what everyone wants to replicate. Now they want to destroy it. What made them great? And I don't get it.
Okay. All
Sorry.
right. All right, Leaf. Thanks so much for letting us know your angle on this. I appreciate it very much.
Yep.
Have a good night. Get some sleep, okay?
Let's check out the debates, though. I want to see what was going on there.
Yeah, I'm going to let it go right through.
All right. Ciao for now, buddy.
Ciao, bye. All right. Leaf is pretty hardcore when it comes to his let's get Supreme Cannon on here. Let's see if he's awake. I'm not sure. It's probably late. He might be in bed. You're watching, guys, Canadian Politics Recap. Are you there? Supreme, are you there? Yeah, he's got issues with his internet sometimes. No big deal. No big deal. He's probably not set up. He probably doesn't even know I'm live right now. Probably doesn't even know I'm live. Let's find out who else we got here. We got Gunter26. Gunter, are you there, buddy? I know you live in Eastern Canada. You can give us a little recap on what you think is going on here. I would like to know, in your opinion. We could get maybe Moby on the show. I haven't heard from him in a while. He's a conservative. He's part of the Conservative Party. I'm not sure what's going on here. So I'm going to go. Let's see if we could get Gunter26. I'm not sure if he's available. I'll see a lot of people don't get notifications anymore that I'm live. A lot of people have been telling me they just get no notifications anymore. And they're not... So let's see if we could get... what's his name on here? Who else we got here? We got Quinn... Oh, there's Andrew Baker. I'm not sure if he's showing him, like, Do Not Disturb. Kind of want to get him on the show to give us a little bit of economic background on what's happening. Well, he knows what's happening in every country economically, and it's kind of good to get somebody on the show that knows the economic... We know, but it's good to get some reinsurance from someone that's more professional. Let's see if we can get Gunter26 on the show. Let's see if we can get him on the show. All right. So nobody's around. Let's skip over to the debate right now and play it for you guys here. I'll try to minimize my talking. But guys, you guys need to know I need to talk over it sometimes, okay? I need to talk over so it doesn't catch. It doesn't become like I'm copying their video, which I'm not trying to do. I just want to debate the debate, right? So I need to talk over it a bit sometimes so the audio does not match. So you guys understand that, right? And it looks like they're setting up stage here for a recap on the Canadian. Metal Gear Mark 3 said, "Can you vote for a candidate not on the list and put down Mickey Mouse?" Like if enough people did that, yeah. Okay, we got go live. Yes, I am live right now. And umpires post criminal corny system. Create money to infinity while raising income taxes, property taxes, gasoline taxes, carbon taxes, social security taxes, cannabis tax, and cigarette taxes, vaping taxes. Oh, it goes on forever. Man, pay so much in booze tax. I don't drink alcohol, thank God. Yeah. The thing is, do we want Trudeau to win so we could reset the economy faster? Or do we get somebody else in that's going to try and fix this mess that we're in? It's not going to... I don't think fixing this... Someone's going to have to call a spade and say, we're done. We're going to have to find something.
We will all make sure they do. Our first theme is leadership in Canada and the world. And our first question is from Reagan Lee, right here in the audience.
Oh, Reagan Lee. Okay. Yeah, all right.
Good evening, leaders. Sorry. Many Canadians have felt the Many Canadians have felt the implications of a divided world more so than 2015, from U.S. protectionism to Brexit to our growing tensions with China. As Prime Minister, how would you effectively defend both the interests and values of Canadians on the world stage? Thank you.
Reagan, thank you for that. And Mr. Trudeau, you are first to respond tonight. You have 45
That was his
seconds.
question?
Thank you, Reagan, for being here tonight. And thank you all for joining us in this important moment to talk about the future of our country and compare and contrast the various plans that we have.
That was his question?
We live in a very challenging time right now, from protectionism to fear-based politics to the transformative technological change people are facing. We need to make sure that Canadians are equipped and tooled to be able to succeed in an uncertain world, and that's why over the past 4 years, we've invested directly in Canadians, help people be optimistic about their future, have the tools to succeed, and the tools to see their kids succeed.
We can't even buy housing. We can't even afford to buy housing. How are we going to succeed if we can't even get the basic necessities that we need to live a life?
We know the environment is a massive and pressing challenge, and building a stronger economy for the future means protecting the environment for the future as well. These are the things we're going to be talking about tonight.
Mr. Trudeau.
Our production, okay guys, protecting the environment, we don't produce or make anything anymore like we used to. Up until the mid-'80s, we stopped production. Our production's at the lowest. A lot more Canadians are more unproductive. With the bigger population we have, we are becoming more and more unproductive. And I'm not too sure what the heck's going on with that. It's all service sector. What are we producing? What are we?
Oh, thank you for that. Mr. Bernier, your opportunity to respond.
Thank you. We are the People's Party, and we put Canada first. The other leaders on this stage are globalists. They spend your money to buy a seat at the UN Security Council, and also they are giving your money to other countries to fight climate change in Asia and build roads in Africa. The UN is a dysfunctional organization, and we must be able to fight for
This guy is good.
our country. Actually, we are the only party that will have a foreign policies that is based on our security and prosperity for our country.
This guy's dead to rights on right here. The UN is a joke, and why are we building roads in Africa for?
Bernier, thank you. The next opportunity for Mr. Singh to respond.
Much, Lisa. Thank you very much, Regan, for your question. I know it's tough to ask questions in front of a big crowd, so thanks for doing that. And thanks to Canada for joining and taking part in this discussion. To me, leadership is about who you're fighting for, the choices you make, and whether you're doing what's right for people. And whether it comes to international affairs, standing up to Trump, making sure we fight to build a better trade agreement.
He just lost. We already had a prime minister stand up to Trump, and he looked like an absolute disaster. It was an absolute disaster.
That actually put Canadians
stand up
first.
to Trump.
For me, the question really comes down to, do you have the courage to stand...
How's about working with Trump? Or working with people we can't see eye to eye with?
Up to the powerful and wealthy interests, the corporations that are having too much influence over Canada. And I've seen so far in Ottawa, whether it's Liberal or Conservative governments, they haven't had the courage to stand up and fight for people. We're different. We're in it for you. I don't work for the rich and powerful. I work for people.
Mr. Singh, thank you. Mr. Scheer, your opportunity to respond.
Well, thank you very much. And of course, I will always stand up for Canada and Canadians' interests and promote free trade and defend our interests all around the world. But Justin Trudeau only pretends to stand up for Canada. You know, he's very good at pretending things. He can't even remember how many times he put blackface on, because the fact of the matter is he's always wearing a mask. He puts on a reconciliation mask and then fires the Attorney General, the first one of Indigenous background. He puts on a feminist mask and then fires 2 strong female MPs for not going along with his corruption. He puts on a middle-class mask and then raises taxes on middle-class Canadians.
This guy's dishing out the dirt right out of the stall. This guy's right on dirt, man. This guy doesn't care about what the other people just said. He just wants to talk about Trudeau.
Trudeau, you are a phony and you are a fraud, and you do not deserve to govern this country.
There will be an opportunity later during the open debate to defend each other. First of all, Ms. May, if you'd like to answer Regan's question.
I would actually like to answer Regan's question in contrast to what we just heard. But I want to start by acknowledging that we're on the traditional territory of the Algonquin peoples, and to them, miigwech. Canada's role in the world is an enviable one. We have a historic reputation for being an honest broker, for being a country that stands up for multilateralism. We have a commitment as a nation to meet the Sustainable Development Goals, which means our future as a world is built on ending poverty and encouraging the education of women and girls. That's a cornerstone. On top of that, we really need to renegotiate the world.
Someone tell me in the comments who this is. I have no idea. Somebody's asking who this is.
Trade Organization and make it an organization that promotes climate action. We need a World Trade and Climate Organization. We need to support the rule of law and human rights around the world because we are world leaders.
Ms. May, thank you. Again, the question, how would you as Prime Minister protect Canadian interests and values on this changing world stage? Mr. Blanchet.
Prime Minister is a bit unlikely. However, first, good evening, everybody, and thank you for having me on behalf of the Bloc Québécois. Having leadership or showing leadership sometimes mean not making mistakes. And arresting the chief financial officer of Huawei might have been a big mistake, for which farmers growing soya or those doing pork or beef might have paid the price. When you're facing a powerful foe like China, you don't try to show biceps if you have only tiny biceps. And this is something that has to be learned. And we would support somebody with real leadership, not making mistakes.
Mr. Blanchet, thank you for that. Continuing with our theme, leadership in Canada and the world, it's now my opportunity to ask a question on behalf of Canadians.
So what did they,
again, to a leader.
So what did they get already prepared here? What was scripted? What's going on? Let's find out.
By a random draw. So this question is for People's Party leader Maxime Bernier. Every other leader will then have the opportunity.
There's a teleprompter right there. Teleprompter right there.
To debate him. But Mr. Bernier, you like to tweet, so let me read some of your tweets back to you. You called diversity in Canada a cult and extreme multiculturalism. You've used the words ghetto and tribes to describe newcomers whom you say bring distrust and potential violence. On Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old climate change activist, you've called her, quote, clearly mentally unstable. Woo! Are these the words of someone with the character and integrity to lead all Canadians and represent us on the world stage?
Exactly. Right there. Jordan Terro. That is not a question. That's a statement. Thank you. I like this guy. I like this guy, man.
First of all, thanks for the question. You must tell the truth to
that wasn't a question.
Canadians if you want to be the leader of this country. And what I'm saying about extreme multiculturalism, it is not the way to build this country. Yes, this country is a diverse country, and we must be proud of that. But we don't need a legislation like the Multiculturalism Act to tell us who we are. We are a diverse country, and we are proud of that. What I'm saying, because it's in line with the immigration, I'm saying that we must have fewer immigrants in this country to be sure for these people to participate in our society. So it is a great country, but it's time to have a discussion about the immigration. We don't want our country to be like other countries in Europe where they have a huge difficulty to integrate their immigrants. And I'm a proud Canadian, and that's why I love this country, and I'm the only leader on this stage who wants to have a discussion about the level of immigration.
So we're definitely going to have a lively debate tonight, because now it is Mr. Singh's opportunity to debate Mr. Bernier on that very question, the temperament required for a good leader.
See, now she asked him a question, you see? So, anyways, to be very frank with you guys, the problem is, if Canada goes to poop even further, a lot of people will have there will be no country for other people to immigrate to from not to Canada, from Canada. Let's say if we had to go stateside, America won't take us. Mexico won't take us. Guatemala won't take us. Brazil won't take us. If Canadians, like Canadian proper, has a hard time in Canada and the country gets really bad or out of control or there's civil unrest, there's no country that would take in Canadians en masse. They would look at Canada and say, that's your problem, Canada. You know what I'm saying? So this is a very interesting thing. So if the country goes to hell, what happens to us? You know, well, me, I'm a dual citizen. I'm Portuguese. I just go to the Azores. I don't care, right? For me, I just go to a tiny island and disappear, right? But for the majority of Canadians, what happens? So let's hear what he says here. This is not more of a. Let's see what he says
Mr.
here.
Bernier, after hearing what was just said, you could have just said, "Hey, man, I messed up," because those are pretty horrible tweets that you made. And really, for me, I mean, it should come as no surprise to you. I believe a leader is not someone who tries to divide people or to pit people against each other. A true leader is someone who tries to find bridges, bringing people together. That's what a leader does. And a leader works for the people who need help, not helping those at the very top, which we've seen with governments in Ottawa for far too long. They've been working to make life easier for the multi-billionaires. They get massive corporate tax cuts. Billions of dollars go towards them. We see offshore tax havens continue. This is not the way to build a country. The way to build a future is to help out the people that need help. It means you got to stand up for the folks that need help.
Socialist policies. It will hurt everybody.
It's not going to help anybody.
Hurt everybody. It's not the way to build wealth and growth in this country. You must believe in people. You must give back their money in their own pockets.
What you're saying is not helpful.
I'm just going to remind everyone this is a debate, and the viewers do have a difficult time even hearing anything if you're talking over each other. So this is a portion where the leaders can debate Mr. Bernier, and it is now the opportunity of Mr. Scheer to debate Mr. Bernier on the question of leadership.
Well, what Mr. Bernier fails to understand is that you can absolutely be proud of Canada's history. You can be proud of our identity. You can be proud of the things we've done and accomplished in the world, while at the same time welcoming people from all around the world. And that is something that has made Canada strong. People come to Canada because of our freedom to be
absolutely,
who we want,
Andrew. You're right. And that's why I want people to come to share our values, our Canadian values.
But, you know,
equality before the law, equality between men and women, the separation of faiths, and the religion.
You have changed. You have changed from someone who used to believe in an immigration
we'll let Mr. Scheer
You
ask
have
you the
gone
question.
from someone who used to believe in an immigration system that was fair, orderly, and compassionate, and now you are making your policy based on...
Wait a minute. Fair, orderly, and compassionate? Let me step in. After deporting tens of thousands of Portuguese from Ontario in 2007? I don't think so. So Canada does its mass deportations, but they try to keep it under wraps. I was in the front lines when Portuguese were being mass deported from Ontario. So stop saying with this fairness and stuff. And in the high schools, you go to your high school, you sit down on the first day of class. Put your hand up if you're Portuguese. Okay, go to the back of the class. We don't want to deal with you. Yeah, okay, so stop with the fairness, okay?
And trying to get likes and retweets from the darkest parts of Twitter. We can be a country that celebrates the contribution from people from all around the world.
I want to celebrate what unites us. I don't want to celebrate every time our diversity.
You can do that
we need to celebrate our history. We need to celebrate who we are. And we're not doing that.
That is the difference between Mr. Bernier and myself on this issue. We believe in making Canada stronger by welcoming people, adding it to our country, and celebrating the things that have made us great as a nation.
Now we're going to hear from Ms. May and Mr. Bernier on the same question.
I understand the question, Lisa. It was also about the characteristics of leadership. So let me just say up front, I think leadership is service. I think the things that make a good prime minister is recognizing that we're public servants. We haven't won some kind of lotto. We don't get to lord it over everybody. We're here as your employee, and we want to work. And I had a little...
I think I'm voting for Andrew Scheer. Yeah. Is it, what's his name? Bernier. I think I'm voting for Maxime Bernier, man, because he really understands the deep depths of the destruction. Yeah, Maxime Bernier.
Quibble with our introduction tonight saying who will get invited back. It's not to be invited to go to Parliament. It's to sign up to work and to be of public service. I believe in service leadership. That said, I find the things that Maxime Bernier has said to be completely appalling, and he knows that I feel that way about the things he says in the House. We used to sit together, and generally when he said anything, I'd have to put my head in my hands because it was so horrific.
I appreciate you, but, you know, I don't share your policies. I don't share your socialist policies because, you know, we won't be able to create any wealth with your policies. You have the same kind of...
Canadians are not creating any wealth. Neither are Americans, Australians, and the UKers, and the New Zealanders. No one's creating wealth. It's debt building. He's right. We're building debt, and we are playing it off to the people saying, oh, the younger generations are more comfortable with debt than the older generations are. The older generations don't like to go into debt, but the younger people are so comfortable with it. They could spend go into debt to buy a dishwasher, a microwave. Heck, to even buy clothing, they go into debt. So this guy's right. This guy is right.
Policies than socialist countries like Venezuela. That won't create any wealth.
Well,
you must admit that.
No,
you will
the
spend
climate
$60
crisis
billion.
is the single
That's your
biggest
promises.
economic
Again, climate crisis. Jesus Christ.
opportunity in a
Okay, let's say we cure climate crisis. It's cured. We put a Band-Aid on it. We made everybody happy. How are we still going to build wealth?
generation or more.
That's not responsible.
And supporting immigration is what we need for this economy.
And I'm supporting
I'm
immigration.
proud of the fact the European Greens are the only party that is pro-immigration. So are we.
Thank you, Ms. May. Now it is Mr. Blanchette's opportunity to debate with Mr. Bernier.
How many seconds will you leave me before you jump in? Somebody invoking the truth should not be somebody denying climate change. And the use of socialism seems to come a little bit too easy.
I don't deny climate change.
Oh, you made 10 seconds. Immigration,
we were worried they wouldn't pay
immigration is
attention.
not that much a matter of number. It's a matter of resources. We invest in it in order to have those persons welcome, as well in Canada as they are in Quebec, with our desire for them to share our language, to share some of our values. And if we do have enough resources invested in that, this is workable. And you do not do it by saying or sending the message that they are not welcome, either in Canada or Quebec.
Everybody is welcome in this country. And you know, 49% of our population believe that we must have fewer immigrants. They're not racist, they're not radical. So what you are saying, because I'm in line with the majority of our population, that I'm supposed to be a radical?
Did anybody tell
we
you?
have the right in this
Did
country
anybody tell
to
you
debate
that your
ideas, and that's what I'm
ancestors were
doing.
immigrants also?
We have the
We
right.
all are immigrants.
Absolutely, and we are proud. We are proud Canadians.
Okay, and the final debate on the subject goes to Mr.
Yeah, I believe in patriotism. I believe in you know what I'm saying? That is the main question. What does Canada stand for? You know, patriotism is powerful in a lot of people, and it's burning strong. And you see, I know where this guy's coming from. He's coming from 1981, okay? Because that's when Canada was a great time to live in Canada. All right, let's keep going here.
Mr. Trudeau to Mr. Bernier.
Oh,
Again, the
yes!
temperament required
Trudeau!
for the leader.
I think it's important to recognize that we're in a world right now where these discussions, this polarization, this fear of the other has become easy currency for politicians who do want to strike up uncertainty in people's hearts and lift those anxieties and try to get people to vote against things. No. Unfortunately, Mr. Bernier on this stage is playing that role of trying to make people more fearful about the migrations that are happening in the world, in the opportunities around globalization, and our ability to
opportunities in globalization. You know, if I wanted to go to Thailand and there was an opportunity, and let's say I had a friend that owned a bit of land that's got gold on it, and I was going to go there and open a mine and stuff, the Thai government will look at me and say, you get the hell out of here. You don't belong in here. You can't make money in our country. Why are people coming to our country? I don't get it. I can understand if there was equal, like, you see, do you know why it's so hard for a Canadian to get into the United States? Why it's really complicated unless you're a doctor? Do you know why? Because everybody would just move south. Every Canadian will move south. There's I think it's like over 20 million Canadians are living in America since 1971. 20 million.
To continue to redefine every single day what it is to be Canadian, what it means to be Canadian. And yes, it will evolve. It will transform itself as we take leadership, as we move forward. And
you
the values
always want
that
to
are
celebrate.
Are
you always want to celebrate our
values that
diversity.
people around the world
we must
ascribe
celebrate
to.
our history. We must celebrate who we are. And I'm proud Canadian like you. And you know, we built this country together, and we want this country to be like that in 25 years. We love this country, and it's not because I want to have a discussion about immigration that I'm a radical. Only
your role
6%,
on this stage tonight
only
seems
6%.
to be to say
This guy's making a lot of sense here, guys. A lot of people tell me that towards the end of the campaign, he dies off. Somebody in the comments said that. I think it was Rainier Mola told me, or Pierre Grosso. Somebody told me that.
Publicly, what Mr. Scheer thinks privately.
No. Only 6% of Canadians want more immigration, only 6%. So when you don't want to have a debate about that, you're not in line with the population. Let's just have an honest debate on that subject.
Okay, and on that, we want to hear from another Canadian tonight. There are obviously so many layers to the issue of leadership. So this question is coming from Susan Fernando, who asks her question from Calgary. Again.
Hi, I'm Susan Fernando in Calgary. More often than not, the provincial governments and federal government are on different wavelengths, no matter what the political party. Cooperation is key when it comes to issues of pensions, workers' rights, to education and health care. As Prime Minister, how would you demonstrate strong leadership when working with the provinces and territories?
Okay, thank you.
That's actually a good one, because there's just too many layers of government, right? And then there's municipal, there's provincial, federal, and then there's all these in-betweeners, and then there's super committees and all this Mickey Mousing. And yeah, that's decent, all right? Because could we be on the same wavelength, basically?
Thank you, Susan Fernando from Calgary. Again, based on a random draw, this goes to Mr. Bernier first, and then every other leader will have the chance to answer. Mr. Bernier.
First of all, I will respect the Constitution. I will respect provinces, and that's very important. And I won't interfere in provincial jurisdiction. I won't interfere in health care because it is a provincial jurisdiction. And you know, we cannot, in Ottawa, solve the challenges that we're having for health care. And what we can do, we can transfer the money to the provinces. And what I will do, I will let provinces being able to deal with health care and with education. That's our constitution. We'll transfer the GST, so provinces will have the money to deal with that, and they will be able to answer to your challenges.
Mr. Bernier, thank you. It's now Mr. Singh's opportunity to respond to Susan.
I got to see. That was a decent one. And in Mexico, it's the same thing. All the taxes that get collected from every other Mexican state get sent to Mexico City, and then Mexico City distributes the wealth to poorer or more in need areas. And when I was in Mexico, that's what they did politically to kind of balance the country, so the suffering states or states could prosper a bit better. So let's see how this other guy answers here.
Thank you. I want to thank Susan for the question. Really, she's touched on a lot of concerns that Canadians have. Things are getting harder than ever before, and she touched on a whole host of issues, pensions and healthcare. I want to single in on healthcare. To me, that's one of the biggest concerns I hear about when I meet with people across this country. And I think of the people that I meet, you know, the young boy that I met that has a chronic illness and his family has to pay for medication and injections and blood work. And he told me he's not worried about the illness, but he is worried about being a burden to his mom and dad. So that young person, Mr. Trudeau, is saying, you know, you're not worth universal pharmacare, that the big pharmacare companies or big pharmaceuticals are more important. I want to say to that young person, with the new Democratic government, we will bring in universal pharmacare for all. You would use your health card, not your credit card, for medication.
Mr. Singh.
I don't think that would work. I don't think they could make that work. I don't think we have it in our budget to make that work. Because we don't pay what Americans pay for in penicillin. When we buy penicillin, let's say for diabetics, yes, the price of penicillin has gone on. Insulin. The price of insulin has gone up, but not as much as in the States. In Canada, it's still pretty much affordable, right? So, yeah. So I'm not following this guy right here.
Thank you, Mr. Scheer. It's your opportunity now.
Well, Conservatives have always recognized the importance of working with provinces. We respect provincial jurisdiction, but we also understand that it will take federal leadership to get certain things done, like interprovincial free trade, something that Mr. Trudeau has failed to accomplish. But one thing I can promise voters across the country is that premiers won't have to take a Conservative government to court to fight things like the carbon tax. And Mr. Trudeau has imposed his carbon tax on provinces that don't want to go along with his high high-cost scheme. This carbon tax is increasing the cost of everyday essentials like gasoline, home heating, and groceries, and it will only go up after the next election. He is refusing to tell Canadians how high his carbon tax will go if he's re-elected. The Conservative government, under my leadership, will scrap the carbon tax.
Mr. Scheer, thank you. Ms. May.
Thank you, Susan, for the question. It's very important, and as Greens, cooperation is in our DNA. None of the problems we face are going to be solved if we keep arguing and fighting with each other, whether it's within Parliament, in our different parties, or between the federal government.
Who is this lady? Does anybody know?
The provinces and the territories. The Greens are proposing a reinvigorated form of federalism. Modeled after what has been done in Australia, we want a Council of Canadian Governments. So the federal government, provincial, territorial, municipal and the local orders of government need a seat at the table. So too do Indigenous leadership, First Nations, Métis and Inuit, around the same table, finding common ground.
Well, somebody, Adrian Sharp is, sorry. Pure Gusto is actually the making a lot of sense here in this comment section. Yeah, Pure Gusto, what is she talking about? I don't know. I don't know what she's talking about. Let's move this a little bit. Blah, blah, blah. No one's listening. Nobody cares about all of us. Yeah, Pocahontas. Yeah.
Okay, Ms. May, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Blanchet.
All right, let's get to the...
Thank you. If I remember well, I've seen a study today from Mr. Éric Montigny saying that this campaign is not about federal issues, but about provincial and Quebec issues. And this is not a surprise. If you want cooperation with provinces or Quebec, you need to respect the jurisdiction. And something that you have to stop doing, and this is one of the demands of the government of Quebec on many issues, is giving a hand to this, to our money being held hostage by the federal government and giving back to us with conditions. The money that has to be given to provinces in their own fields of jurisdiction should be given back without conditions.
Mr. Blanchet, thank you. Mr. Trudeau, your
He made sense with that one there, too, a bit.
In 10 years of Stephen Harper's government, he chose to stop meeting with premiers and first ministers' meetings. And we restarted that when we took office in 2015. We were able to strengthen the CPP for a generation. We were able to sign historic health accords with massive investments in home care and in mental health. We were able
Did he say massive investments or NASA investments?
To invest in infrastructure like housing and public transit across the country. And we continued to work with provinces on renegotiating a NAFTA that had everyone playing on one Team Canada. But yes, with certain provinces right now, we're fighting on the defining issue of our time because Jason Kenney and Doug Ford and other Conservative premiers don't want to do anything on climate change.
Climate change! Woo! So let's say, like I said, we solve climate change, we win the war against climate change, the sun sends us a letter of affidavit that it'll be more nice to us and not kind of tilt away from the earth and make it cooler some years or make it hotter some years. We'll let the sun, we'll send a telegraph to the sun and say, look, we'll fill up Al Gore's money full of his plane full of money, and we'll crash it into the sun as once a year for the sun gods. And then once we get climate change fixed, how are we still going to preserve and build wealth? That's the question. How are Canadians going to start building so they could take vacations again, so they could buy cars again, so they could actually have something again, so they don't have to buy everything on friggin' credit?
We need a government in Ottawa that is going to fight them and fight for Canadians on climate change. And
Canadians don't care about climate change.
That's exactly what we're going to do.
We will have the open debate coming up very shortly. We are going to switch gears now, though, and give a leader a chance to ask any other leader a question on any topic they choose. Again, the order of this was chosen by random draw. The first leader this time is NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. Mr. Singh, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. My question is to Mr. Trudeau. You know, you talk often about how Conservatives cut taxes for the wealthy and cut education and healthcare and other services. I agree with you, and I've heard you say this often. So my question is, you criticize Mr. Harper on his climate targets, but you failed to achieve them. You criticize Mr. Harper on the fact that he cut healthcare funding, and you also cut them. You criticize Mr. Harper and Conservatives on giving billions to billionaires and corporations, but you gave $14 billion more. My question is this: why do you keep letting down the people that voted for you?
First thing we did was cut taxes for the middle class. and raise them for the wealthiest 1%. And on climate change, after 10 years of Stephen Harper doing nothing, in just 4 years, we've reached 3/4 of the way to our 2030 targets, which we will meet and surpass. But we know that's not enough. We're going to continue to do more, like planting 2 billion trees, like moving forward on...
Planting 2 billion trees? Do we have enough land to plant 2 billion trees? Okay, guys, here's a little shocker for you guys. There are more trees on this planet right now, than there were 100 years ago. How can we fit 2 billion trees? What? 2 billion trees? Okay, I gotta bring this back, guys, because I probably heard this wrong. I think he maybe said 2 million trees. All right, let me just bring this back real quick here.
Fighting on the defining issue of our time, because Jason Kenney and Doug Ford and other Conservative premiers don't want to do anything on climate change. And we need a government in Ottawa that is going to fight them and fight for Canadians on climate change, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
We will have...
And Conservatives on giving billions to billionaires and corporations.
Okay, did he say 2 billion? He's going to plant 2 billion trees, or am I just losing my mind?
You gave 14 billion more. My question is this: why do you keep letting down the people that voted for you?
First thing we did was cut taxes for the middle class and raise them.
And then you raised them on the food and booze and cigarettes.
For the wealthiest 1%. And on climate change, after 10 years of Stephen Harper doing nothing, in just 4 years, we've reached 3/4 of the way to our 2030 targets, which...
Okay, let's ask it. Okay, we're looking for trees, guys. Does he say 2 billion trees or 2 million?
We will meet and surpass. But we know that's not enough. We're going to continue to do more, like planting 2 billion trees.
Holy shit, he said 2 billion trees, SA. This man said 2 billion trees. 2 billion. Each tree, let's say... 3 square meters circumference in radius to other trees, because you don't want them on top of each other. 3 square meters. Guys, so could someone do, let's say, a 3 square meter circumference, maybe, let's say, 4 for a healthy root system. 4 square meter circumference between each tree times 2 billion. How many square meters is that, guys? 2 billion times 4, that's 8 billion square meters. What is that in kilometers? 8 billion. Yeah, 8 billion square meters of trees. Yeah, that's a lot of trees. That I don't think Canada has enough land mass to plant 2 billion. That's 8 billion for circumference of 4 square meters per tree to give them a little bit of root space to grow healthy. That's... I don't think we have enough land mass to plant that many trees, guys. Yeah, Canada barely has any population. It's already all trees. Yeah, if you get on a plane and you fly from Vancouver, let's say to Newfoundland, all you see is trees. That's all you see, and you see a couple of little lights at night, and the sun comes up. You look out the window. Wow, it's trees. Wow, there's mountains and trees. There's water and trees. There's no deserts. There's no brush. There's no, Right, guys. Podcasting says we need 6 million trees, but 2 billion. 2 billion trees? I don't understand. Yeah, someone comment to me if someone's like a scientist or something, or knows or met David Suzuki. If you met David Suzuki, you should know why we need 2 billion trees planted. How much would that cost? Let's say it's $1 a tree, $1, okay? A little seedling like to plant. That's $2 billion. Okay, let's continue here.
Like moving forward on giving money upfront so people can retrofit their homes, on making Canada net zero by 2050. We know how important...
Make Canada net zero by 2050. Make Canada net zero. I guess that's no carbon by 2050.
It is to move forward. And right now, Mr. Scheer has promised that the first thing he would do is rip up the only real plan to fight climate change that Canada has ever had. These are the things we're going to be moving forward on because Canadians...
I'm not for planting 2 billion trees. Andrew Scheer is probably right on this one. Okay? Andrew Scheer is right. I'm not gonna stand for planting 2 billion trees. That's like 1/10 of the Earth's, what is that? 1/6 of the Earth's population. No, that's 1/3 of the Earth's 1/4 of the Earth's 2, 4, 6. Yeah, okay. Population.
Expect us to. We lifted 900,000 people out of poverty with our investments in families, with the Canada Child Benefit, and things that actually, Mr. Scheer and Mr. Singh, the NDP voted against. We will continue to invest in families because it's creating jobs and helping people out of poverty because that's what Canadians expect, and that's what we will continue to do.
Now the leaders have an opportunity to have the open debate on this question. It's for 4 minutes. Mr. Singh, you may begin.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, I mean, we look at the track record of this government, and in reality, Statistics Canada points out in 2017, the wealthiest actually paid less in tax and gained more in wealth. And
okay, the wealthiest pay less in tax, and they always will, no matter what. Even if you raise the wealthiest tax to 12%, they're just going to take a loss of 12% somewhere, somehow, and they're just going to recoup it through their capital gains loss, or their expenses, right? Their write-offs. So rich people have good accountants. When you say we're raising your tax another 5%, okay, raise it 5%. I'm going to go buy a jet, and I'm going to expense that as an asset that I need for work, and I'll find a way to expense it and make the taxpayers pay for it again.
When we look at one of the biggest problems that we're faced with as a country is offshore tax havens. Now, not only did your finance minister use offshore tax havens, but also the president of the Treasury Board. She also used offshore tax havens. So how can you tell Canadians we don't have the money to fund things like universal pharmacare when your top 2 cabinet ministers don't pay their fair share?
Mr. Scheer, you might remember that, Mr. Singh, you might remember that summer
I'm very different from Mr. Scheer.
You
got it. I mean,
you look so alike, it's really difficult for me.
There's nothing in common here, man.
We had a huge fight with the wealthiest Canadians and the Conservatives when we closed tax loopholes that Mr. Scheer is going to reopen and give tax breaks worth $50,000 to the wealthiest Canadians.
But what if those wealthiest Canadians hire a majority of us? That's the question, right? Like, we don't know this, right? If they're just going to expense it through company expenses and write-offs to make up that loss so they get something in return and so they don't have to pay all that tax forward, I mean, there's a lot more going on here, guys.
We're going to keep moving forward in a way that invests in Canadians.
Mr. Trudeau, we'll give Mr. Scheer an opportunity to respond.
You called small business owners tax cheats. You called entrepreneurs who have created jobs and opportunities in our society tax sheets, all the while protecting your trust fund and those of your billionaire friends. What we are doing is lowering taxes for all Canadians. We've got a universal tax cut that will lower the first bracket, that will save $850 for the average income couple. We are going to bring in tax credits for kids' sports.
Yes, for sure. What they are doing, they are spending, and
tax cuts are not
everybody
spending.
Here on the
Tax cuts are
stage,
leaving
everybody here
money
on
in the
the
pockets of
stage
Canadians.
are spending more money. And you cannot...
He's right. Governments right now are spending more than what they're taxing. That's a big problem here. Like, my question would be to them, if I was on the whole, if we're on the financial side of things, and we're not talking about, let's say, we're not talking about immigration. Let's say we're talking about the finances. My question would be simple. As Prime Minister of Canada, how will you stop spending more than what you're taxing? That's my question. Well, you're going to have to tax Canadians more if you want to spend more. So how do you do it, right?
Create wealth when the government is spending money. You must have the right policies for the entrepreneur, actually. We want the private sector to be able to invest. The private sector will create wealth. That's why we're going to undo...
It's private sector. Public sector could go to hell. Public sector could go straight to hell.
Oh,
tax hikes.
you won't balance the budget. Nobody will balance the budget.
His tax hikes.
I cannot
Ms. May, you'd like the opportunity.
Thank you. At the beginning of this segment, Mr. Singh pointed out that Mr. Trudeau
Blah,
has
blah,
not
blah,
changed
blah,
the
blah,
climate
blah,
targets
blah.
from those of Mr. Harper. It needs to be said very clearly, and I'm so disappointed because I believed the Liberals in 2015 that they would go with science-based, evidence-based policies. But the
Turned out not as
target that Mr.
advertised.
Trudeau is saying he will hit by 2030 is a target for losing the fight against climate change because it ignores the
Mama
science, it ignores
Fangulo,
the
she's still
IPCC
talking about the
advice.
same
On
thing.
this stage tonight,
Nobody cares. We want to know how Canadians could build wealth, how Canadians could be prosperous, how Canadians we could. Okay, you know what? Maybe we should debate on how can we stop Canadians from leaving Canada. Our doctors, our radiologists, our chiropractors, our like family practitioners, or family doctors, or oncologists, like whatever. How do we stop? The next debate, next 4 years, will be how do we save Canadians? How do we stop Canadians from leaving? Because that's what's gonna. It's climate change, and climate change. They're not protecting the Canadian proper here.
the Green Party is the only party with a plan, mission possible.
Oh, this lady's part of the Green Party. Never mind.
Actually
A
protect
plan
us
that will
mind.
so that we
destroy
can
the
hit
economy. A
carbon
plan that will
neutrality by
destroy the
2050.
economy.
You know that's not
Lisa.
true.
It is
You know
true.
that's not true.
Yours
We've
is
got a whole plan.
38% below
Our plan is to
2005.
stay in line with science.
It-
Our plan is this.
Which
We've got
science did you find
Our
that
plan
matches
is in
the
line with
target?
the
I think it's Scientology they're talking about here.
IPCC report,
Yes.
and it's to keep warming within 1.5 degrees, which you love to say.
Metal World. No doctors in the Okanagan. You got that right. My mom just moved in, here with the family. I'm the only child, taking care of the family. And there's no family doctor for her. Every doctor here is full. There's no more room in the practice. So if she needs to get a medication for her blood pressure or something, she has to go to the emergency room and get it. That's how bad it's getting here. How do we keep Canadians from leaving? I think that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing. You get a doctor, move down to Central Florida, small, medium-sized town, 60,000 people, pick up a house for 190 grand with a pool, 4-bedroom. What the heck is he going to stay here? He's a doctor. I get sick. I'm not feeling well. I know what's wrong with me. Let me go get a second opinion on somebody else, from somebody else. Like, you got it. We're going to lose all our money makers in Canada. Once our money makers leave and we don't have that tax bracket to tax anymore, we're screwed.
And it's very important, and I agree
I love
with
to
you.
say it.
You do, which is very important, and it's a very
Because
important
it's
thing.
about our
But
children's survival,
here's the
which I
thing.
love to protect.
To take on the
Our children's survival can't even buy a house. Can't even buy real estate. They got to start working at 6 years old. By the time they're 50, they'll have enough for a down payment. They won't even have enough to buy anything. Children's survival, climate change.
climate crisis that we're in. It's going to require the courage.
What about the homelessness?
To fight big polluters. It's going to take the courage to stand up to the massive
that.
lobbyists that Mr. Trudeau has caved into, and the reason why we continue to pay subsidies to the fossil fuel sector.
Mr.
We would
Singh,
immediately
Mr. Singh,
end those subsidies
Ms. May,
if formed
the experts are
government.
agreed that what a climate plan needs to do is to be ambitious and doable. And of the plans that are forward here on this stage, there is only one plan that the experts has qualified as both ambitious and doable, and that is the plan that we have begun to put in place over the past 4 years.
Last word.
Mr. Trudeau's plan is failing. It is making everything more expensive for hardworking Canadians, and he has granted a massive exemption to the country's largest emitters.
That's not true,
Our
Mr.
plan
Chair.
takes the climate change fight global, recognizing that Canada can do more to fight climate change by exporting our clean technology and helping other countries lower their
more
emissions.
subsidies.
And
Your
that
plan
concludes,
is failing.
that is all the time we have.
Clean technologies. I got some good news, guys, and I'll bring this up, and I'm going to keep bringing this up every day, every time we talk about clean technology. My country of birth, Portugal went off grid for 5 days. A population of roughly 10.5 million people. The country went off grid for 5 days with solar, wind, and wave technology. And they have 2 desalination plants to make fresh water if needed. And they decriminalized and legalized all drugs. and the drug issue just pretty much disappear. Portugal is the only country on the planet where drug use is a sickness, not a crime. We're losing the war on all fronts. Instead of following other countries that are actually making it go green and actually going off grid, they're not following those countries. They're exporting green technology. No.
Have for the open debate. That concludes this segment.
Someone's asking what happened to the Azores, Lorenzo. That was the typhoon, hurricane. Yeah, it was just a bunch of rain and water. I talked to my cousin the other day. He's fine.
An opportunity, you got to jump right in. So thank you all very much for the conclusion of that segment.
That they would.
Mr. Scheer and Mr. Singh. Ms. May, you may debate
that girl's
Mr.
pretty.
Singh on this question.
Yeah, I want to also echo Andrew's comments, because I think that Jagmeet has done, as we all have done through this rather strange period of an election campaign, confronting issues of privilege. And anyone with white skin has privilege. But when we look at Bill 21 in Quebec, I think it challenges all of us. Like the NDP, the Green Party opposes Bill 21. And then we're left with the question of what is the best way for a federal government to protect human rights within Quebec. Quebecers are fighting this out within Quebec. Quebec groups are going to court to say that Bill 21 discriminates. And as that goes forward,
thank you very much.
We are, frankly, looking at a situation where we don't want to do anything that hurts that debate within Quebec.
I understand. You know, what I want to also just touch on, while Bill 21 is, of course, polarizing, on that point, I know you agree with me on this, that we've got to tackle those, the powerful corporations that are not paying their fair share, and that's part of the reason why
Okay, corporations will close. Continue.
People aren't able to earn a good living, and part of the reason why people can't find housing.
People can't earn a good living because the corporations are already taxed to death.
Or they can't get the medication they need because those at the top aren't paying their fair share.
It's not even about
and we can't
paying
build
their fair
in.
share. I think
we can't even build in the services.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ms.
May, thank you. Ms. May, thank you. Mr. Blanchet, your turn to debate Mr. Singh.
With 70%.
I'll give you more than 10 seconds.
You're nice. With 70% of the population of Quebec supporting the Bill 21 and 70% of the members of Parliament in Quebec.
Guys, what's Bill 21? Could someone please comment in there? Please, could somebody comment what is Bill 21?
Quebec supporting Bill 21. It's hardly a polarization issue in Quebec. That's the problem. The problem is that, and in English tonight, it will be quite clear. Everybody here has problems with the very idea of, I will say laicity, because there's no exact translation for that word in English. Everybody has a problem with it, but say in best of cases that they would tolerate it. But Quebec does not need to be told what to do or what not to do about its own values, nor its language, nor themselves as a nation.
This is a bill that just says to people, because of the way they look, that they can't do a job.
You know this is not true.
And instead
Madam,
of that,
you know this is not true, and your tweet that said that I said
instead of that, Mr. Blanchet, what we should be doing
was wrong.
Mr. Blanchet, instead of what we should be doing is let's protect.
Whoa. Okay, this is Bill 21 right here. Wow. Bill 21 says provinces, the bill, basically not having any religious paraphernalia, if you want to say, or religious, like necklaces, crosses, turbans, or stuff like, let me see here. Basically, Muslims, Christians, Jews, and Sikhs cannot be policemen, teachers, judges, etc. if they wear turbans, headscarf, kippah, or a kippah. Wow. So they want to ban that.
Women's rights. Let's build up more protections for a woman's right to choose.
What does means in the context I used it?
Let's build up more protections for the LGBTQ community. Let's build up more protections in society to build a society where there is a separation of church and state.
Mr. Blanchet, thank you. Mr. Singh, Mr. Trudeau, and Mr. Singh can debate this question.
Mr. Singh, you have spoken very eloquently about discrimination and fought against it all your life.
You may dispense with the pleasantries.
And that's why it's so surprising to have heard you say, like every other leader on the stage, that a federal government under you would not intervene in the question of Bill 21 in Quebec. It's a question where, yes, it's awkward politically because, as Mr. Blanchet says, it is very popular. But I am the only one on this stage who has said, yes, a federal government might have to intervene on this because the federal government needs to protect minority rights, needs to protect language rights, needs to protect women's rights, and needs to do that right across the country. You didn't say that you would possibly intervene. You didn't even leave the door open, and that's not leadership.
Let's be honest for a second here. Every single day of my life is fighting a bill like Bill 21.
So why won't you fight it if you form government?
Every single day of my life is challenging people who think that you can't do things because of the way you look. Every single day of my life, I channel the frustrations of people.
Wait a minute. They're talking about this. Why aren't they talking about housing, wealth building, getting the middle class out of the working poor, getting Canadians out of, like, a massive percentage of Canadians out of the poverty level by creating better paying private sector jobs? Why don't they talk about, my question in this would be, instead of saying this, asking this question, I'd be like, what are you going to do for Canadians in the private sector to actually get better paying jobs? We don't want affordable housing. We want better paying jobs like my dad had and my granddad had, so they can pick up what house they want and when they want, instead of having to stick with affordable housing because the jobs aren't paying enough. No. We want better paying private sector jobs. Why are they even bothering with this? Like, I get it.
That many people across our country who are told that they can't achieve what they want because of how they look.
So why not
I'm running to become
act
prime minister
on your
of this country,
convictions
and I'm going to
and
Quebec
leave the
and telling
door
people
open
I want to be
to
your prime
challenging
minister.
it?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Trudeau. Mr. Singh, Mr. Bernier, your chance to go head-to-head with Mr. Singh.
Yes. About the Bill 21, we must respect the Constitution. And we won't interfere at the federal level. That's the decision from the provincial government. And that's what we must do. But also, Mr. Singh, you said that you didn't want me to be here on the stage to have a discussion with you. So you're for diversity. But what about diversity of opinion? I have the right to have another opinion about immigration. And I don't know why you're not, you're a leader and you must try to have everybody on your side. But are you believing in free speech? Are you believing in free speech only when people are saying things that you want to hear?
You're asking the question.
Exactly.
After a couple.
Okay, I'm gonna vote for this guy, Bernier here. I'm gonna vote for this guy.
Couple of minutes of this debate tonight, I think people can clearly see why I didn't think you should deserve a platform. The comments that you're making, the type of things you say. There's one thing to say that you disagree with somebody. That's fine. But when you incite hatred, when you incite division,
no, I don't. It's not
when you
true.
say
You cannot say that.
You insult a young girl,
I just want to have a debate.
Ask about her mental stability. It shows a lack of judgment. You don't deserve a platform, and I'm happy to challenge you on that.
So someone can be concerned about somebody's mental stability and ask about it? How are we supposed to be frank with each other? How can we level with each other? How can I level with this guy here? How can I level with him and say, I think that person might have some sort of mental issue or some sort of issue maybe growing up or something? How are we supposed to level with each other?
Because your ideas are hurtful to Canada. I will always work to build unity and bring people together.
Unity
for people
who agree with you.
Merci, Monsieur Bernier. Thank you, Mr. Singh. Continuing with our theme of polarization, human rights, and immigration, we have people watching this debate right across the country, including a big crowd at the Student Union building at the University of British Columbia. And our next question comes from Paige McDicken, who joins us from Vancouver. Please go ahead, Paige.
Hi, good evening. Hi, good evening. My name is Paige McDicken, and I'm here tonight at UBC, but I live in Coldstream, British Columbia. My question is along the lines of polarization, and to me, Canada feels more divided than ever before. If diversity is our strength, but division is weakness, how will your leadership seek to provide a unified vision for Canada? And how will you ensure that all voices across the political spectrum are heard and considered? Thank you.
Mr. Singh, you may begin. You have 40 seconds.
Sure. Paige, thank you so much for the question. I appreciate getting a chance to chat with you, and thanks for tuning in. When you talk about the divisions that we have in our country, there are a lot of divisions, and they're growing. And I point to a lot of reasons for it. There's radicalization, there's hateful discourse, there's a climate which allows people to be emboldened. But the other reason why people are being exploited into hating one another is because they're worried about the future. There's a lot of people that can't get the basic things that they need, like housing, like the healthcare they need. And it's really the neglect of federal governments that have brought us to this position.
No, it's the neglect of federal governments selling out our mines, our resources, selling out our lumber, selling short our lumber industry, screwing around with other foreign countries and making us look bad on the world stage, and basically competing for rich investors from China to come here and buy us out. And the local Canadian proper is finished. Like this. It's over. I'm an immigrant myself. I'm a Portuguese. So is my wife. She's a Filipina.
I think the way we tackle a lot of the polarization is making sure people get the basic things they need, like housing, healthcare.
Thank you very much, Mr.
And a good job.
Basic things we need is not federal. It's a good paying private sector job to go out and spend money when you feel like it after your bills are paid. That's not federal. Things we need, we shouldn't be getting government assistance for food. People should be earning enough money to buy their own food if they choose so. And a lot of people I know want to work. There's a lot of unproductive people in this country, and they could feel more productive if they got a chance.
Your turn.
Well, it's very important that we understand why Canada is a country of such diversity. And it is because people come from all over the world to take refuge here, to build a better life here. It is because of our freedom. That is the common ground that everyone who has come here, no matter what generation, no matter from what part of the world, can agree on. And it's important that we remember that, promote that, and ensure that people who come here embrace that aspect that makes our country so great. But what is very dangerous is when you have a prime minister like Justin Trudeau who uses legitimate issues like racism and hateful language to demonize anyone who disagrees with him. Calling people un-Canadian for disagreeing with his failure on the border
Thank you very
does
much,
more
Mr.
to create
Scheer.
division.
I'm sorry. Ms. May, your turn.
Thanks, Paige, and hey to UBC. Thank you. I raise my hands to Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh territory. We need the kind of leadership that lifts people up, that doesn't make people feel as if politics is rather disgusting and they'd rather not look at it. We have to restore the idea of real democracy, where every citizen has agency and power to work together. Mission Possible for climate action, we call all...
She's talking about Mission Impossible, the TV series or the movie?
All hands on deck. We're going to
I think she's talking about Captain Ron, all hands on deck.
Everybody. And to have the kind of democracy that really reflects everyone, we need fair voting. We need to get rid of first past the post, because it creates each political party as rival warring camps, even when the elections are over. We need to get to a healthy democracy.
Ms. May. Mr. Blanchet.
Yes. I believe that democracy grows on information. So, translating voter pour des gens qui vous ressemblent by vote for people who look like you is, at best, dishonest. And may I remind you that in 2011, the exact same phrase was said by Michael Ignatieff, and that in 2015, the exact same sentences were said by Thomas Mulcair. So people may
Thank you very
recognize
much,
themselves.
Mr. Blanchet. I'm
into
sorry,
a
you're
party.
out of time. Mr. Trudeau. It's 40 seconds for each leader.
Oh, it said 45 on my...
I'm sorry. It has moved on to 40, sorry. Everybody has the same time? It's Mr. Trudeau's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Paige, for your question. It's great to see everyone at UBC, one of my alma maters. It's really important to recognize that, yes, we're in a time of polarization and differences that get highlighted by the kind of debate going on at this stage and in this campaign about how we're moving forward. But the reality is Canadians agree on most things. We want to raise our kids in a world that is getting better for them. We want to be able to pay for their futures. We want to be able to retire in comfort. We want to create opportunity.
Retire in comfort. The baby boomers are tapping into the equity in their homes to be able to eat because property taxes have gone so high.
for our neighbors as well. This is something that binds Canadians together right around the country. And the fact that there is a politics of fear and division that is continuing to dominate here underlies what we're actually doing together as a country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trudeau. Monsieur Bernier.
Speaking about immigration, it is not polarization. Actually, Canada receives more immigrants per capita than any other Western countries, 3 times higher than the US. So we must have a discussion about that. It is the equivalent of 1 Nova Scotia every 3 years.
That's a lot of people. This guy's right on this. This is like, yeah, if we want to save climate, I mean, I think bringing in more people will destroy it. Like, what do you guys think? They're telling us not to have babies. Okay. And then now we want to bring in more. Like, what?
Like the population of Nova Scotia every 3 years here in Canada. So, they're all for mass immigration. I'm for a sustainable immigration, and that's why we must have fewer immigrants, a maximum of 150,000 a year, with more economic immigrants for our country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bernier. We are moving on to a one-on-one format, followed by an open debate. We start with Conservative leader Andrew Scheer. You may pick any leader of your choice and ask any question of your choosing.
So they're going to pick on Trudeau here, because he's obviously the leader, our great leader.
You have 30 seconds.
Mr. Trudeau, you broke ethics laws.
So Metal Gear Mark III has a really good, really good comment there. That's why he's a moderator. Mike, people in Western nations aren't having babies because they are too busy or they are broke. That's true.
Twice, you interfered in an ongoing criminal court proceeding. You shut down parliamentary investigations into...
Someone's commenting here, 150K is a lot. No, that's what they want to put it at. Canada's competing for rich immigrants, and they have visas in China up to 500,000 just from China. Then we have other visas that are coming in, like other different visas. But for rich investors or competitive investors, if they meet Canada's demands financially, Canada's bringing in 500,000 rich investors from China per year. That's from our immigration minister's lips. That's just that. And I don't know who's coming from Africa or whatever, wherever other people are coming from. That's a lot of cake. That's a lot of people. So let's see what happens here.
Your corruption, and you fired the only 2 people in your caucus who were speaking out against what you were trying to do just for telling the truth. Tell me, when did you decide that the rules don't apply to you?
Mr. Scheer, the role of a Prime Minister is to stand up for Canadians' jobs, to stand up for the public interest, and that's what I've done, and that's what I will continue to do every single day. The way I have worked for Canadians is around investing in them, unlike the vision that you're putting forward of giving tax breaks that help people who are making $400,000 a year, $400,000 a year, more than someone making $40,000 a year. You're offering a $50,000 tax break, which is more money than most Canadians earn, to the wealthiest Canadians with your plan. Of course, we don't entirely know your plan because you haven't released your costed platform yet, which I think is a disrespect to every Canadian
Where's your
watching
costed
tonight.
Platform?
Our costed platform
Half
came
of
out
it
2
isn't
weeks ago.
Mr. Scheer, you will have a chance to rebut.
Our platform came out weeks ago, and it is we worked with the parliamentary budget officer, and we have a vision, but it is a different vision than yours because we're choosing to invest in people. You're choosing, just like Doug Ford did, to hide your platform from Canadians and deliver cuts to services and cuts to taxes for the wealthiest.
Mr. Scheer,
That's not the way to grow the economy.
Rebut, and anybody is free to join us.
You know you're making things up again. Half of your platform
delusional. You're making things up again.
Isn't even costed. You're making announcements without any details and without any numbers. And you aren't telling Canadians how you're going to pay for it.
You're the one who is
hiding
your
that
platform
taxes
from
will
Canadians.
go up under your government if you are reelected.
We lowered taxes for the middle class
started off talking
and
about
raised
your
them on the
corruption
wealthiest 1%,
and your scandal.
and you voted against
You looked
that.
Canadians in the eye and you said that the allegations in the Globe and Mail were false. You said Jody Wilson-Raybould never came to you. You said you never put pressure on her. We now know that those were all lies. You have failed to tell the truth on this corruption scandal.
The responsibility of any Prime Minister is to stand up for jobs, and what you're saying is you wouldn't have done it.
The CEO of SNC Lab.
Okay, standing up for jobs, guys, does not mean public sector. Standing up for public sector jobs mean zero.
Evelyn said he never threatened jobs or moving the headquarters. You are making that up again.
What we have here is Mr. Trudeau, Mr. Scheer arguing about who's worse for Canada. Really, we should be. We got to start arguing. We got to start presenting who's going to be best for Canada. And when we think about what Canadians are going through, Mr. Scheer, your small tax cuts are not going to help a family that's struggling with the cost of childcare, which costs thousands of dollars a month. Your small tax cuts aren't going to help out a family that's struggling with the cost of medication. They can cost hundreds of dollars a month.
Canadians are struggling to get by, and we're going to put more money in their pocket.
To make sure
$850 with the universal tax
finish
cut.
my point here. We're going to save families money by investing in Pharmacare for All, which is going to save families over $500 a month. We're going to invest
the big pharma corporations won't go with this. They won't allow this to federalize medication. The big companies are, well, we're just going to jack up the prices then. They're just going to take us for a ride is what they're going to do with our tax money.
We're going to invest in childcare. Let me finish my point here. We're going to invest in childcare, which is going to save families thousands of dollars a month. And we're going to make sure that those families that earn less than $70,000 get dental care. That's going to save families at least $1,240 a month.
Our tax where will you find the money? Where will you find the money?
This is a conservative spin. Where we're going to find the money is this. Yeah. We're going to ask the wealthiest Canadians, those who have wealth of over $20 million, those who have fortunes of over...
Those are not even Canadians. A majority of millionaires, they actually did a poll with BNN Bloomberg. A majority of wealthy people are not a Canadian in Canada. Like, a majority of them are foreign interests, right?
$20 million. We're going to ask them to pay a little bit more. Yes, we think they should. That's only going to apply to a small number of families.
We're going to make sure they do it. About that proposal, because we have the same proposal in our budget. When the Parliamentary Budget Office reviews them, guess what they find is the single biggest uncertainty when we go for revenues from the wealthiest? They're worried that they'll hire lawyers and avoid paying that tax. If you go look at the Parliamentary Budget Office reviews, people said, oh, well, the Green Party is proposing to spend a lot of money. Yes, on pharmacare. Yes, on childcare. Abolishing tuition. And the weakness, they say, in our revenue sources is that wealthy Canadians will continue to hire lawyers and evade their taxes. I think that's shocking. And I think we need to...
They're not going to evade their taxes. They're just going to expense it. I spoke to my accountant one time, and I was talking to my accountant, and I'm like, what do I do? I'm paying so much, like, I don't know, let's say provincial sales tax, or I'm paying so much federal tax. Well, go lease a car, and then we'll expense that as, we'll put it through the company, and lease a car through the company, and we'll use that as an expense. That's what the wealthy will do. They're not going to find... loopholes. They'll just find things to buy, expense it, and then sell it back for cash. That's the smart way to do it.
To say to people, this is the most beautiful, blessed country on earth. And if you have wealth, you have obligation, you have responsibility. Pay your taxes.
Yes, for sure.
I seem to remember...
Everyone's got to contribute their fair share. Makes sense.
I seem to remember that Mr. Scheer referred to the SNC-Lavalin scandal. And I want to speak for 3,400 innocent people that did nothing wrong. When Mr. Trudeau tried to find a solution, he did it the wrong way, and he admitted it. What you are doing, Mr. Scheer, is playing this old card. You're trading the idea that Quebec is corrupt.
No, that
Those
is not
3,400 people have done nothing wrong. Now the value of the shares are going down. The employees are leaving. The clients are leaving.
Mr. Blanchette, with all due respect,
losing it all
with all due respect,
of you.
There is never an excuse for a prime minister to interfere in an independent court
but I was
case.
talking
We
to
do
you,
not
by the way.
want to live in a country where someone can abuse the power of their office to reward their friends and punish their enemies.
And those people have to pay the price for that. Innocent people pay the price for that.
I just want to add, Andrew, that I was the only leader who said no corporation is above the law. I was the only one who said that.
That's not true.
I think I said that too, Max.
Yeah,
it may be the only thing on which we agree, that no corporation is above the law, and we need an inquiry into what went on.
It's a nice beginning.
On the SNC
what a wonderful show of unanimity on this wonderful topic. And that wraps up this topic and this segment. Thank you very much.
Letting things get built in this country.
Ms. May, you have...
Thank you. I am appalled by the fact that Mr. Scheer has forgotten that there was a duty to consult on the Harper government as well, and that they also violated in the findings of the court identical to Trans Mountain on the case of Enbridge.
Okay.
It's the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of
Energy. They're talking about energy, guys.
Peoples needs to come into force of law in this country. I know you oppose it because of the debate we had at McLean's. But the reality of it is Section 35 of the Constitution already requires consultation, and it does not boil down to we will consult with Indigenous people until we get them to agree with us.
No, but it also means that we have to
respect
find a way to get
nation
to
of
a yes.
Indigenous territorial rights that are inherent.
Did she just say she's part Indigenous too?
So what does free, prior, and informed consent mean?
I think I misheard that.
For every single Indigenous community.
It means
what about the dozens and dozens of
informed
Indigenous
consent.
communities
Why
who
are you-
want these projects to go
Why
ahead?
are you prepared to set aside the decision of the Human Rights Tribunal to fight it in court, just as Mr. Trudeau is, when they actually found, as a matter of fact, that our government committed acts that were reckless and willful in the violation of the rights of Indigenous children?
There are
we
dozens
must
of
live
Indigenous
up to that
communities
decision.
who want these projects to go ahead because they know that is
But
the key to
the
prosperity
territory
on
is
their
Yeah, no one ever listens to the people that want to have it done. They always look at the 5 people on the side that don't want it and serve their agenda, right? Thank you so much, Pashka, for the $4.99 for coffee. I will be buying a coffee tomorrow with that money, I promise you.
They know that is the way
rights.
for them, for their young people to get jobs.
Territorial
And
rights
you
are
and others
inherently
cannot
local.
define what free, prior, and informed consent
I don't
is.
want to argue over
Thank
land.
you.
I'll let you talk. But
Mr. Blanchette, it is now your turn.
You say, Mr. Scheer, that you want to respect provinces and Quebec jurisdiction, sorry. But when it comes to this pipeline of yours and this, corridor énergétique, which translation in English is pipeline, you don't fear the idea of expropriating territories belonging to provinces and saying, the Constitution, yours, not mine, the Constitution says that I have the right to go through provinces, through Quebec, without their approval. And may I remind you that Quebecers and the Prime Minister of Quebec said clearly that he does not want it.
So that's completely false. What we're talking about here is addressing...
He's making up things again.
The environmental concerns and the Indigenous concerns up front, getting that out of the way so that there can be a geographic space where big projects can get built again, including Quebec sharing its hydroelectrical energy.
Now it belongs to Quebec, and then it would not belong to Quebec.
We're talking about the regulatory environment around it. And you know as well as I do that Quebecers purchase a huge percentage of their energy from the United States. I've made my choice. I believe Quebecers should get
and you've said
energy
weird things saying that Quebec buys oil from Saudi Arabia, which is
from the
entirely
United States.
false.
I've made my choice, Mr. Blanchet.
You have done, and Quebec will make his.
Mr. Bernier, I remind you that this is about how will we respect Indigenous rights. Mr. Trudeau, sorry.
Thank you. We all remember 10 years of Stephen Harper, who did not respect Indigenous rights, did not respect Indigenous peoples. And Mr. Scheer, you're putting forward exactly the same plan that didn't just fail Indigenous peoples, didn't just fail Indigenous communities and their kids, but they also failed to get important energy projects built. We need to keep moving forward in a way that respects Indigenous peoples, respects that there's going to be a range of views, but is grounded in the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples that you have consistently blocked through your party's actions. That is not respect for Indigenous peoples. Perry Bellegarde, the Grand Chief of the head of the Assembly of First Nations, has said that no government has done more for Indigenous peoples than this government, and he's one of your constituents, Mr. Scheer.
That's right. He comes from Little Blackbear in my
He'd love to talk to you.
He's got my phone number.
Give you a phone call sometimes.
I have nothing to learn from Mr. Trudeau, who fired the first Indigenous Attorney General for doing her job. She said that she would do politics differently, and you fired her when she did. And you want to talk about getting pipelines built? You've canceled 2 pipelines, and the one you bought, you can't build. You've let tens of thousands of people in Alberta and Saskatchewan...
What about the roads they built, this government, Trudeau built somewhere in Africa somewhere that go nowhere, apparently? They built a bunch of roads that went nowhere. I heard about this from somebody else. Somebody else was bringing that up, and I saw it once on the news, too.
down, and you have failed to recognize that Indigenous communities are hurt by this as well.
I am accepting the fact that I'm going to be attacked for not building pipelines from some
and
for building pipelines
We'll
for others.
Not getting anything
and the
done.
balance we need to
I
take
think we'll
is
be
doing the
talking
right
about
things
this more.
for the public.
You're doing nothing.
Mr. Bernier.
Mr. Scheer, you said that you're ready for building pipelines all across this country by the private sector. But at the same time, you said, Quebecers are ready to buy oil and gas from Canada. I agree with that. I agree that Quebecers know that it's safer to transport oil and gas by pipelines than by trains. But at the same time, the Quebec government said that there's no social acceptability for a pipeline in Quebec. What will be your position on that? Do you think that you'll be able to use the Constitution? Because after consultation, if we don't have any agreement, we must be able to use the Constitution, Section 9210, to be able to build a pipeline. When you do that, the federal government will have the full authority, the full jurisdiction to approve pipeline. But what you're saying, you're for pipelines, but you don't have the courage to use the Constitution to be sure that we'll have pipelines in this country for the unity of our country and the prosperity of our country.
That's just not the case at all. I've always said that the federal government must stand up for federal jurisdiction. We respect provincial jurisdiction. And when you've got the best idea, I am convinced that I can get support for this project because
you don't have the
Quebecers
support in Quebec.
Canadian
You don't have the support
energy.
in BC.
Quebecers know that it's better to take energy from Western Canada than the tanker after tanker of foreign oil coming up the St. Lawrence or oil and gas coming from Donald Trump's economy. I know Quebecers will support this project because it will also allow them to share their hydroelectrical power with other provinces as well.
Mr. Singh.
I want to talk about a recent decision. The Human Rights Tribunal of Canada found that the Harper government and Mr. Trudeau's government willfully and recklessly discriminated against Indigenous kids. These are kids that weren't getting equal funding.
Yep.
And then there's a landmark decision that said these kids should get equal funding.
I thought this guy left.
And it was received as finally some justice for those kids. And then Mr. Trudeau is now, and his government are going to appeal that decision. He wanted to fight hard to keep SNC-Lavalin out of the courts, but he's going to drag Indigenous kids to court. That is wrong. How could someone do that? How could someone do that?
This decision will have massive, huge ramifications for several aspects of the way the federal government provides services to Indigenous Canadians. It also is a very large, significant settlement amount, and I believe that when you're dealing with these types of important public policy issues, that it is legitimate to say that it should be reviewed have a judicial review.
I disagree, of course, but I want to talk about one other issue. We're talking about Indigenous issues. I went to Grassy Narrows again just recently. We've got a community impacted by mercury poisoning, and an Indigenous activist went to a private fundraiser where Mr. Trudeau mocked that Indigenous activist, saying thank you for your donation to someone living with mercury poisoning.
Because he's a fraud.
What kind of prime minister does that?
I wish I had that answer, but one that doesn't deserve to be reelected.
That's time for this section of the debate. The open debate is over, but we continue on our theme of Indigenous affairs. We have a question from an audience member here in Gatineau, Natasha Beatty. Go ahead, Natasha.
Good evening. As a member of Beausoleil First Nation, my question is this. If elected, how would your parties work with provinces and territories on recognizing and affirming Indigenous rights, specifically noting the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action, and the calls for justice in the recent missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls inquiry? Miigwech.
The leaders will all have a chance to answer.
Okay, so she's asking a question, and they're going to go off topic against about pipelines. Watch this. Who wants to bet?
Thank you, Natasha. Starting with Mr. Scheer.
Well, thank you very much for the question. Of course, there's a lot there for just 40 seconds. There are many areas in the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women report that Conservatives have been calling for quite a while.
Yeah, Metal World saying people are homeless in Canada on minimum wage. Yeah. People need to be on average wage jobs. People need to earn average wages to be able to own average homes. Now, the average home is $2 million in Vancouver. Woo! They're not talking about any of this stuff. Let's get. I want to hear. Okay, move on here. Let's go to the next question here.
Province and every Canadian.
Yeah, what I like from you, Elizabeth, you don't want any subsidies to the oil and gas industry, and I don't believe in corporate subsidies also in corporate welfare, so we can agree on that.
All right, let's move on to Mr. Singh, your opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. May. I actually really appreciate that you wanted to shift the discussion towards healthcare. I think it's one of the biggest concerns that families have. When we look at Canadians across this country, they can't get the medication they need. They can't get
Again with the
dental care they need.
medication.
They're struggling. I met a woman.
Medication is private sector. Once you make medication public sector, look at my hands. Look. Just like our public sector car insurance in BC. We have one car insurance company, ICBC. We can't go compete and find another insurance company because there's only one, and it's a government-run one.
My office in Burnaby, who was covering up her mouth because she was embarrassed that she had lost her teeth because she couldn't get the care she needed. And that to me is heartbreaking in a country as wealthy as ours. And I know, Ms. May, you're prepared to do this, but the problem is Mr. Trudeau does not have the courage to take on the insurance and the pharmaceutical lobbyists that don't want this to happen. I'm going to make it happen. If you vote New Democrats, we're going to make sure we make these things happen because we don't work for the powerful and wealthy. We don't meet with pharmaceutical companies and then listen to them. We work for you. We work for Canadians. We're going to deliver on these things.
We have to have I hope you'll agree with me, that we need to renegotiate a new health accord. It's been left alone for too long. We need to get back at the table. The constituents in my riding, I just did 8 debates with the local candidates in my riding. By the way, all of you guys can be proud, except for you, Mr. Blanchet. All of you can be proud of the candidates you have running locally because I've been in 8 debates with them in the last week. But one thing we heard from every constituent in every town hall meeting is we are suffering from a lack of family doctors. We need an investment.
Because they're moving to America. They're moving. Some of them even. I heard of a guy moved to Mexico to open a practice there. Never been to Mexico, but he'd rather go there and help people at least live a righteous life. Like we're losing everything here because people can't afford the basic needs to live.
In our healthcare, the wheels are falling off the bus, and
Mr.
we
Trudeau
need
has
to invest.
Mr. Trudeau has continued the same cuts brought in by the
Mr.
Conservatives.
Scheer, your opportunity.
Well, the question was about affordability
and household debt.
And household debt.
Yeah.
And the entire theme of our platform is leaving more money in the pockets of Canadians so that they can get ahead. It's time for Canadians to have a break.
Okay.
Our university.
We don't want more money in our pockets, SA. We want better private sector jobs. And to do that, you need to cut back on the public sector to stop meshing in and slowing crap down, and then start getting average wage earners, not minimum, average wage earners into the housing market again. They're out. Even the wealthy are out of the housing markets right now. People that have $800, $1 million saved in savings can't even get into the house. But Mike, they could buy a 2-bedroom condo for $700,000. What are you talking about? Who the hell is going to spend that much money? I'm not going to go there right now. You guys understand what I'm talking about here.
Universal tax cut will mean $850 in the pocket of a hardworking average income Canadian. We're going to bring back the children's fitness tax credit to make raising children more affordable. We're going to bring back the green public transit tax credit to make taking the bus or the train more affordable as well. We're going to help fight climate change by bringing in the green home renovation tax credit, which will put money in the pockets of Canadians and help lower emissions. And we're going to pay for that. I'll just finish.
Okay, how many Canadians actually own their homes?
To go through the roof.
The way we're going to pay for those is by cutting corporate welfare and reducing Canada's foreign aid budget by 25%. So we're going to stop sending money to the relatively well-off countries. We're going to bring that money back home so that Canadians can get ahead.
Mr. Scheer, that may be the worst idea in your whole non-platform, is the cutting of foreign aid. I wear this little pin. This is the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, to which this country is committed. Ending poverty within the next decade, within Canada and globally, is actually possible, but not if we ever had the misfortune of having your
I believe we should take that money and bring it back home so that Canadians
greedy
can
and
get
selfish
ahead.
policies.
It's not greedy to put money in the pockets of Canadians, Ms. May.
We're going
I fundamentally disagree with you.
We're going to stop you there.
It destabilizes the world, what you're proposing.
Please stop her.
We're going to stop you there so that we can hear from another Canadian, please. On the theme of affordability, one of the many places Canadians are watching tonight is in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. Here's the scene at the Copper House restaurant. And earlier we heard a question on affordability from Scott Marsden.
Hi, my name is Scott Marsden from Yellowknife. My question is, what is your government going to do about the growing crisis of income inequality and affordability in Canada?
Ms. May, first to you.
I've been in that restaurant. Hello, Yellowknife. Good to see you again. Look, we must act for income equality, we need to look at the fact that over the years, the gap between the various wealthiest Canadians and the average Canadian is continuing to expand. We're calling for a tax commission.
That's wrong. The gap is the gap between the average earner, the average is descending or disintegrating into poverty. I don't give a crap about the elite and the ultra rich. They keep bringing up the ultra elites with the dirt poor. I'm talking about the actual middle class that actually funds the public sector. The middle class that actually, the mom and pops that actually make Canada or keep it running on fumes right now.
We haven't had a proper tax commission since the 1960s to examine our tax code, to see if it's still progressive, to find out if all these corporate boutique tax cuts that have piled up over one after the other after successive governments is taking money away from those Canadians who need it most and allowing those who really have massive income to continue, as many Auditor Generals have found, to be treated by Canadian Revenue Agency as if they have special status and don't have to pay their taxes.
Ms. May, thank you. Mr. Blanchet.
First, I must say that if saying untrue things at the end of time is your way to do things, collaboration might be done already. However, about the issue, if federal government was to respect jurisdiction of provinces, it would take less time, it would cost less money, and provinces and Quebec could do what they have to do about health care. Bring the money that is owed to Quebec and provinces. This is what has to be done. Lodging, the money should be given to provinces and Quebec because it is mostly, if not only, their jurisdiction. That helps people.
Mr. Trudeau, to you. The question is about income inequality.
Okay, I gotta hear this. I gotta fix my eyebrows here because I want to look good to hear this.
What you would do.
We recognize that we need to help people more directly. That's why the first thing we did was lower taxes for the middle class and raise them on the wealthiest 1%. We're moving.
But they raised property tax right across. But that was provincial. No, that's municipal. I'm sorry. Okay, they raised. Okay.
Again forward with a tax break for low and middle income Canadians and nothing for the wealthiest, unlike Mr. Scheer's universal tax credit. We're also moving forward by increasing the Canada Child Benefit, which has lifted hundreds of thousands of families out of poverty by 15% for kids under 1. We're increasing the old age security for seniors over 75. We're making sure that students have an easier time paying back their student debts by not having...
Okay, you want to get into student debts? Stop federalizing student loans and make it, guys, from 1961, statistically in Canada, from 1961 to 1982, from 61 to 82, college tuition was $130 a semester, and it only went up like $9 from the 1960s to 1982. It only went up $9 per semester until the federal government got in there and started making, people can't afford to go to college now, so we're going to have to get in and then that's when everything skyrocketed. Once the federal government, why are they in student loans for?
Having to pay back until they're making $35,000 a year. We're investing in Canadians.
Mr. Trudeau, thank you. Mr. Bernier, your turn.
First of all, I think it is important to be able to have a discussion about what is important for Canadians. We are the only party that will balance the budget in 2 years. All the other parties...
Well, that's huge. To balance the budget in 2 years. But there's just too much backtracking. I mean, you got to have some really forensically skilled auditors to even... I don't even know. 2 years. I was thinking maybe 3 to 7 years to put everything back on track. This is not going to happen overnight.
On the stage will spend and spend and spend. That is not a solution. The credit card is full. But we will do that without cutting services. We will cut corporate welfare, all the corporate welfare, $5 billion that we can save there. All these political parties, the only promise that they do everything to get your vote. I promise you to do nothing except balancing the budget, and after that, lower your taxes. That's the only responsible policy.
Mr. Bernier, thanks. Mr. Singh, to you.
I want to thank Scott for the
Didn't this guy leave?
question. Income inequality is massive. There's also massive wealth inequality. And these are not just esoteric academic discussions. When those at the very top do not pay their fair share, when 87 families in Canada have the combined wealth of 3 provinces.
Guys, the people at the top pay a lot. They actually pay a lot of tax. A lot of them are returning to Europe. A lot of the old money that came from Europe back, let's say in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there's planefuls of people going back to Europe, leaving Canada.
It hurts families. It means we don't have the funds to invest in healthcare. It means we don't have the money to invest in things like dental care. So while Mr. Trudeau likes to talk a nice game, and I admit he says nice words, but what he's done is he's given $14 billion to the richest corporations to buy private jets and limousines in the last fall economic statement. We would instead invest in people, ask the super wealthy to pay their fair share, and invest in programs to relieve the costs on families.
Mr. Singh, thank you. Mr. Scheer, your turn on income inequality.
Well, actually, Mr. Trudeau has his facts wrong again. Our universal tax cut drastically is much better for middle-income Canadians than his proposal. And he thinks that someone earning $47,000 a year is somehow too rich for a tax cut. I disagree. We also recognize that you don't need to tear some people down to lift others up. Justin Trudeau's attack on small businesses, threatening them, making it...
Yeah, he was calling small businesses, like I'm a small business owner, criminals. Calling us criminals and we don't follow. I pay my PST every month to the cent. Okay? I pay my GST every quarter to the cent. I pay all my bills to the cent. Okay? I do my yearly tax every year on time. I do everything to a T.
Harder for them to grow and expand and offer the types of opportunities that lead to the jobs that have much higher income earnings was precisely part of the problem over the last 4 years, all the while protecting people who have inherited trust funds. We will take a different approach. We will ensure that our entrepreneurs have the support they need to grow and succeed.
Mr. Scheer, thank you. We're going to move on now. I have a question for the Bloc Québécois leader, Yves-François Blanchet. After...
Andre Nicotina's brought up a good point in the comments. Those Euro-Canadians probably remember what communism is like, and they see it manifesting in Canada. Oh, yeah. Yeah. EBEQ saying, Japan has 130 million people on small island, yet I could buy a house in some areas for $30,000 and a small condo for $5,000 to get by. Canada's huge and only 37 million people, yet houses are a rip. Exactly. Thank you, EBank, for contributing that from the shores of Japan. That's what I'm talking about. RK saying, and by the way, Germany, France, Norway, and your effing beloved Portugal has free healthcare and free education. Okay. Well, I'm proud to say I'm a Portuguese. So what? So what? I'm a Portuguese. Ibeku says 30K Canada for detached home in Japan. Yeah. Oh yeah. And the island's so small, and there's 3 times the Canada's population. I'm going to get into it with Imbak one day. We're just going to talk about this and kind of look at the demographics, the land space. Oh, there's not enough land in Canada to build. What are we? Kuwait? What are we? Hawaii?
Which each one of the leaders will have a chance to debate him one-on-one. Mr. Blanchet, Quebec is one of 5 provinces to receive federal equalization payments in 2019. It received $13.1 billion, the highest amount of any province. That's a benefit of being part of a federal system where wealth is shared. You've referred to the money as an assistance check. Premier Legault has said he wants to wean Quebec off equalization payments. Do you agree with that? And if so, how would that make life more affordable for Canadians?
Thank you for the question. First, the very system called equalization is based on some flawed reasonings, flawed ways to analyze things. And this is why we propose something else that would progressively replace it. Oil provinces are very wealthy and have developed those resources with money from all across Canada, including Quebec. And
oil companies are upping production, but selling at a loss. Upping production and selling at a loss doesn't make you wealthier. It looks good on exports and production levels, but it's bad on the pocket, and you're selling at a loss. Upping production to sell more at a loss is like working 18 hours a day but getting paid for 2 hours of the day. It makes no sense.
Today, they are using it as a threat over Quebec, which citizens do not want to be a passage for this oil through their territory because they rely on clean energy and believe this is the only responsible way to do things. We propose a kind of equalization that would be based, without any constitution change, on how provinces perform in fighting climate change. Those who are over the average pay, those who are under the average receive the money, giving a strong encouragement for everybody to reduce GHG emissions.
Mr. Blanchette, thank you. Let's go. The leaders will all have a chance to debate this one-on-one, 1 minute each, beginning with you, Mr. Trudeau.
Thank you, Donna. Equalization exists so that every Canadian across the country, regardless of the province they're born into or live in, accesses the same quality of services right across the country. It is not a perfect system, but it is a system that ensures, as much as we can, equality of opportunity across Canada. We've continued to engage with provinces across the country on updating the equalization formula in ways that are fair, and it is something that continues to bind this country together. Unfortunately, you, Mr. Blanchette, as a sovereigntist, are always looking for opportunities to create fights between Quebec and the rest of Canada to advance your separatist agenda.
We have paid for the development of oil in Western Canada,
Canadians want.
And you make us pay again with this idea of buying a pipeline over there. And tell me something, what can a Canadian do that a Quebecer cannot do? Why would we need anything?
I think by definition, a Quebecer can do anything a Canadian can do because a Quebecer is a Canadian and will remain a Canadian under my watch. Mr. Blanchette.
Gentlemen, thank you. Mr. Bernier, you now have the opportunity to debate Mr. Blanchette.
Yes, speaking about the equalization, I'm the only leader who's ready to look at the equalization formula for being sure that the formula will be less generous and fair for every province. Let me explain. It is not fair to tax people out west and also in Quebec because Quebecers, are proud and they want to live in a richer province. So what we must do, we must give the right incentive to provinces to develop their own natural resources. That's so important to have a discussion about the equalization, and they don't want to have that discussion. Let's be less generous and fair for every province. Why? Why? Because it is important when you have people in Alberta. 20% of people in Alberta wants to have the discussion, and let's have that discussion.
Okay, Quebecers receive less money from equalization per capita than anybody else who receives it in Canada. Do you mind about stopping those lies?
All right. Mr. Blanchette, Mr. Singh, your opportunity to debate.
Yes. I was thinking about ways we can make life more affordable. And this is where I think we can do a lot if we work together. This is one of the things I believe that we can build a better Canada if we tackle some of the challenges that people are facing. One of the things that we hear about a lot in Quebec is the cost of healthcare and that it's not there for them when they need it. If we work together, the Universal Pharmacare Plan is one where we use the buying power of all Canadians. It's still delivered provincially.
Again with this pharmacare thing, why do you want to federalize pills?
You can actually buy medication for lower costs and it will help out Quebec and
help out people. It is delivered provincially. And dental care would be, if we wanted to finance it, a provincial jurisdiction. You have good ideas, but your ideas always interfere and infringe into jurisdictions which are those of provinces and Quebec. So if you want to do that, please do it for Canada. Take our part of the money as the Constitution allows.
We can do that,
and
we can work together.
Quebec.
The other thing we need to do is when we want to tackle the problems is housing. Housing is something that's concerning a lot of people. Federal money used to be invested in building, in partnership with provinces to build housing. We want to do that again.
Mr. Scheer, thank you.
We don't want federal housing either. We want better paying, waged, private sector jobs to choose what house we want. I don't want a government-built house. Come on, man. Where's the Canadian dream? Where are the balls on these people?
You.
Where are the cojones?
Mr. Singh, pardon me.
Am I just losing my? Am I just severely delusional?
Mr. Chair, over to you.
I don't know how people are getting me mixed up.
You're not allowed that.
I wore a bright orange turban on purpose today.
Mr.
What does it take?
I'm slightly taller than you, Mr. Singh. That must be it.
And stop rubbing that in.
Mr. Chair, please continue the debate.
It's important for Quebecers to realize that on so many issues, Monsieur Blanchette agrees with Justin Trudeau. He will support Justin Trudeau's higher taxes. He will support massive deficits that will continue to put pressure on Canadian taxpayers, meaning more and more of their dollar goes to pay the interest on the debt.
I just
and we
had
know,
to raise more money without raising taxes. So you didn't listen or you didn't understand.
We know that Monsieur Blanchette's priority is working with the Parti Québécois on sovereignty. So we know that if votes for Bloc Québécois MPs mean that Justin Trudeau stays Prime Minister. Avec le Bloc, le plus ça change.
You know what the problem is, guys? And if you actually pick up on what's happening, the same problem that Canada has is the same problem that's in the US and the same problem that's in Australia, New Zealand, UK. They have the exact same problem. Affordability issues. We're open for business. Bring in more people, more wealthy. Let's compete for more wealthy. Open up more visa offices to bring in more wealthy. And every country, I mean, they're completely kind of abating or avoiding this. All of them are. They're not really tackling, propping, or helping the private sector jobs. Let's say they swindled money into the private sector, a bunch of money to all these little companies. At least the companies could hire people and pay them, instead of putting it more into You see what's going on here, guys? They're looking at building more housing, federal housing, as opposed to me buying a piece of land in the Okanagan for like $1 million and then building a house for $600,000. Where Bank said I could go to Japan and I could build a house 40 minutes outside of Tokyo for just under 70,000, 100, maybe 100,000 Canadian. So Japan is a small island, and they got 3 times the population of Canada. So what the heck is going on here?
And you know what? Do you remember that all that you say you did for Quebecers was done when Harper was in a minority government?
His oil and gas from the United States. You prefer sending consumers' dollars to the United States to support that economy. I prefer Canadian energy.
You've talked over each other.
This has been all energy and pipelines, and they're not getting into real discussion. They talked about income inequality, but all they talked about is more pharmaceutical, more of this, and more putting money in Canadians' pockets. We don't want federal money. We want our money. We want to build our wealth. We want to look back and say, look what I've done. I feel proud of myself. I've accomplished something. I've made something of it. We want better. Stop spending more federally than what you're taxing, because it's killing every one of us. It's crippling us, everyone, to the bone.
And you're both out of time. Thank you, Mr. Scheer. Ms. May, it's your turn.
Forgive me, Donna, but Yellowknife, Ryland, I see you. Congratulations for being elected MLA. I'm just so excited. Now, turning to equalization payments, we need equalization in Canada because we're a country, we're a family. We need to
Why is she wearing a jacket for? Is it cold in there?
think like a family. Your proposal, Mr. Blanchette, would be to put an extra burden on those parts of Canada, like Alberta, that have the toughest challenge to meet the climate crisis. We're concerned as Greens that we work together, that we not alienate Alberta.
I noticed that you had a strong sensibility for Alberta since your previous positions on oil were quite nice to them.
No, they're not. We're shutting down the oil sands by 2030. They don't find it.
Okay, they're all talking about energy here.
We cut taxes for Canadians. We know that tax breaks for wealthy do not work to grow the economy. 10 years of Mr. Harper's failure has done that.
Again?
Yet Mr.
Is this a replay? He just said this like 20 minutes ago.
Platform, what we've seen of it, because most of it is still secret and will remain secret, apparently, like Doug Ford, that didn't work out so well for Ontarians, is to reduce taxes for the wealthiest Canadians, the multimillionaires, by $50,000, which is more money than most Canadians make in a year.
Wrap it up.
Why the $50,000
Mr. Scheer,
tax
you have
break
1 minute
for the
to
wealthy?
respond, Mr. Scheer.
First of all, Mr. Trudeau, you seem to be oddly obsessed with provincial politics. There is a vacancy for the Ontario Liberal leadership, and if you are so focused on provincial politics, go and run for the leadership of that party, Mr. Trudeau. Secondly, your tax policy has meant that 80% of Canadian families pay higher taxes today than when you first took office. That is exactly true. That was a conservative principle that Liberals fought against, that you fought against. Your signature achievement was taking a conservative idea to send support directly
why did you vote
to
against it,
parents.
Mr.
I
Scheer?
voted against your tax hikes on Canadians, Mr. Trudeau.
against
That's
the Canada
what I was
Child
voting
benefit
against.
that lifted
No, I did not. We
Gentlemen,
are
one at a
committed.
time. One at a time.
We are committed to protecting that benefit because it is based on a conservative principle. But we are going to
Mr.
lower
Trudeau, this is supposed
taxes.
to be Mr. Scheer's
We are
answer. We're going to move into
lower
open
taxes
debate.
for all Canadians with a universal tax cut. We're going to bring back the children's sports and fitness tax
That's
cut
it,
as
Mr.
well.
Scheer. We've got 3 minutes on this open debate.
Starting with me.
Yes, that's right, sir.
Okay.
Off you go.
Mr. Scheer, you did
Mr.
not
Trudeau.
answer the question on why you were lowering taxes by $50,000 for multimillionaires in this country. Maybe you'll answer it tomorrow.
Again, what is he bringing this up for? What about better paying jobs? What about investing in the private sector?
On the press conference, but you haven't answered it tonight.
That is just not true. You haven't answered a question.
Wow,
the
these
entire
guys are fighting
time
like
as Prime Minister.
two
I've
guys
said
on the schoolyard. I said this, you said this, I didn't say this, you are lying.
Across you never answer a question.
I answered
Mr. Speaker. I am
more
answering
questions
your
in
question
the House of Commons.
I am rolling
Mr. Trudeau, let Mr. Scheer finish, please. Mr. Trudeau.
I am rolling back your tax hikes on entrepreneurs, on small business. You called them tax cheats. These are the
he did. He called us tax cheats and criminals.
People
Tax
in our
breaks
community
for the wealthiest
they are saving
and cuts
up money
for services
to open up
for
a second
everyone
location,
else.
investing
That's
in
what
people's
you're
training
offering.
and
Gentlemen,
education.
no one
You
can
raised
understand
their
anything
taxes.
Mr.
You called them
Blanchet
tax
wants in.
cheats.
Mr. Scheer, Mr. Blanchet.
You're both experts in multimillionaire. However, I have a suggestion for you. How about this idea, which has been asked unanimously by Assemblée nationale du Québec, of a single tax refund? That would save about $400 million to our combined states. Is that not a great way to save money, make things simpler for people, companies, businesses, and even government?
So you're talking about the single income tax return for Quebecers?
Yes.
I am the only federal party leader that can deliver on that, Monsieur Blanchet. That is something that I'm committed to.
You might find yourself in a position where you need me to do that.
I am committed to simplifying the lives of Quebecers by ensuring that they only have to fill out one single income tax.
I want to clarify something with Mr. Scheer.
Mr. Singh, yes, go ahead.
You know, Mr. Scheer, you talk a lot about tax cuts, but this is the reality. The thing is that Canadians can look across this country and see what the impacts of a conservative tax cut means. Translation, cuts to education, cuts to healthcare, vicious cuts to the most vulnerable people in society. That's what you do. The thing is, Mr. Trudeau,
How come no one's bringing up the huge homeless situation we have? There's an article out today about this massive homeless situation in Edmonton. Like, it's so bad right now in Edmonton, and they're going to 0-degree temperatures and minus temperatures. No one's bringing up the amount of tent cities that are around Vancouver and Burnaby and Surrey, the tent cities that are propping up all over the parks and federal parks of people that can't afford to get into a basic accommodation. Why aren't they talking about this? And no one's brought up homelessness at all.
Different. You sound a lot better, but you've done much of the same. You've
900,000
given billions of dollars
poverty,
to the wealthiest,
Mr. Singh, is
and
not
your
nothing.
top
300,000
your
kids
top
out of poverty
cabinet ministers
is not nothing.
use
Mr.
tax
Trudeau.
havens.
Mr. Scheer, you can respond, then Mr. Bernier.
So under Trudeau's policy, Canadians are working harder and harder, but they're barely getting by or falling behind. Our policy will leave more money in their pockets, and we're going to do that, Mr. Singh, by protecting services like healthcare and education. We're going to get the money to pay for it by cutting corporate welfare and reducing Canada's foreign aid budget by 25%. That is going to pay for our tax cuts for all Canadians to leave more money in their pockets so that they can get ahead.
Mr. Bernier.
Not going to work.
Mr. Scheer and Mr. Trudeau, it's all the same. It's all boutique tax credit. They won't cut tax for every Canadian. We have a platform with only 2 tax rates that will be fair for everybody. So everybody will save. The cost of our tax reform will be $35 billion. But we will do that only after balancing the budget. We'll use all our surplus. It's the only responsible way to give more money.
I got a question.
No, you had your chance. Ms. May wants in. Ms.
With
May.
2 weeks left in this election campaign, Canadians can know one thing. At this point, Mr. Scheer, with all due respect, you're not going to be Prime Minister. The question is going to be on a seat count if we have Mr. Trudeau in a minority or Mr. Trudeau in a majority. Voting for Green MPs is your very best guarantee, Canada, that you don't get the government you least want.
Mr. Scheer can respond to that, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, I'm going to prove you wrong on that. You just watch on October 21st.
I'll lay you bets right now.
Mr. Bernier said something that is completely untrue. Under Justin Trudeau, we will see endless deficits, meaning more and more of Canadian tax dollars goes to pay the interest on the debt. We will balance the budget while still preserving
Time
core
is up.
services.
And it's Maxime Bernier's chance to lead this part of the debate. You can ask one question to any other leader. 30 seconds, please.
Yes. Andrew, you are calling yourself a conservative, but you don't want to balance the budget in 2 years. You will add $70 billion on our debt. You support the cartel in milk, dairy, and poultry, knowing that a Canadian family is paying more than $400 a year for that. Andrew, are you a real conservative? No, I think you are liberals. Why are you pretending to be something that you are not?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Pretending to be something that you're not. I'm not sure which Maxime Bernier I'm debating tonight. Was it the Maxime Bernier from the 1990s who was a separatist? Was it the Maxime Bernier who was minister responsible for handing out corporate welfare? Was it the Maxime Bernier who defended supply management when it suited him? The fact of the matter is, sorry, it's my time to respond to that question. The fact of the matter is there's a clear contrast in this election. Justin Trudeau's endless deficits and tax hikes to pay for it, or a conservative plan that will leave more money in your pocket. We will lower taxes for all Canadians. We will bring back popular tax credits like the kids, sports and fitness tax credit. We will boost the RESP. We will raise the age credit for seniors, and we will bring in a green home renovation tax credit. That all the while cutting corporate welfare and Canada's foreign aid budget to bring that money back home so that Canadians can get ahead.
9 seconds. Well, let's do open debate. Off you go. You're starting that too.
No. Thank you very much. I'm the Maxime Bernier who's there for Canadians, and I'm the Maxime Bernier who does not care about having real debates on real issues that are important for Canadians. You don't want to have debates on immigration. You don't want to have debates to help every Canadian and abolishing that cartel in supply management. You don't want to be able to cut foreign aid. You don't want to cut foreign aid.
Let's let Mr. Scheer respond,
please. It would be important to balance the budget.
Why is Canada even paying foreign aid? We have 35 million people. I mean, why would we be paying foreign aid anyway? Like, it doesn't make no sense at all with the amount of people we have sleeping on the streets and sleeping rough.
We can do that.
Scheer.
Yeah, real Kevin Thompson said it right. Doesn't matter who wins.
Well, that's precisely not the case. I've said that we will cut Canada's.
Okay, guys, let me wrap this up and let me tell you guys what's going to happen. You're going to have more and more Europeans jumping ship and going back to Europe, and that's been happening in big numbers in the last year and a half. A lot of Europeans leaving, a lot of them selling their houses to rich investors and moving back to Europe. Our professionals like doctors, practitioners, people that we need, family doctors that we don't have, are all moving to the United States. They could probably be making a little less, but they make more because they're taxed less, and you could buy a house for a fraction of the cost of what it costs to buy one in Canada. What else? Our private sector is falling apart, and if the private sector is on life support right now, and we can't give more benefits to small businesses, medium-sized businesses, to hire more people, we're screwed. We're finished. We have no way. The gravy train's over. The party's over. They're just going to have to keep raising property taxes. What is it? It's the boomers that own the houses and the rich investors. The middle-class Canadian, if they didn't buy at the right time, they're all bought out of the markets. Either they're homeless, couch surfing, or they moved into the interior like myself did. I live in the interior of Britain. I live 2 hours away from Vancouver because I refused to buy a house for $2 million of that outrageous garbage that was happening on the coast and being part of all the hate and hatred down there and nobody having money and everybody pissed off at each other. Now, Canada is falling apart at the seams in every angle. All they're fighting about here is pipelines, pipelines that basically support foreign interests, not local interests. No one's tackling homelessness. No one's discussing real housing affordability, and stop talking about federalizing our pharmaceuticals. That's going to turn into a nightmare. Anyways, guys, in my opinion right now, I think that Maxime Bernier is the guy that actually is looking at the numbers, looking at the deficits, understanding expenditures, looking at pitfalls, and understanding the deleveraging of... He's got to severely deleverage on a lot of angles to be able to pay back or put our spending on track in 2 years. Massive deleveraging has to happen on multiple sectors. That's what's happening. We are not debating half of it was climate change and then pipeline. Climate change, pipeline. Climate change, pipeline. And we're not getting into what we need. As a Canadian, as a Portuguese Canadian immigrant, it's so breaking to see what Canada has become in the last 7 years alone, 8 years, what Canada has become. It is very heartbreaking. I am very disappointed. I'm very disappointed in what's happened in the last... I remember when the times were good here. It was Canada. What people used to say, I remember people used to tell me, Mike, this is Canada. All you need to do is get a job and you'll have everything. Not anymore. That's gone. It just breaks me inside. It destroys, what is Canada? Anyways, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna have eBankU on the show very soon to give us a little bit of insight on Japan, and then you guys could basically tell me what is going on in your opinion. Robert Bedial saying, you're wrong, Mike. Please tell me what... comment below after the video and let me know in the comments where I'm wrong. Where do you think I'm wrong? Owen saying Canada's being redefined right now. He's 1 million, right? Spot on. But redefined into what? The problem with a lot of the local Canadians here, like 3, 4, 5 generations down the line, they'll have a tough time going somewhere if it doesn't work out here for them. I just go back to Europe with the other Europeans. We just go back, Anyways. Yeah, Pierre Gross was saying, after listening to this, I just don't care. Yeah. They need to get somebody in there like the first person that called in said, we need somebody more conservative, like Maxi or Bernier, basically really bringing discussion to the table of real issues. There is hope for our country, Mike. Yeah, of course. Dude, I'm with you. I'm on your team, Robert. I'm not playing against you, Robert. But we need to start calling spades spades, and we need to really take the real issues to the table and stop wasting time with climate change. Okay, I'm going to write a 10-page thesis on how homelessness is destroying our environment. That we need to house people and start giving them addresses so they can apply for jobs and stop sending foreign aid. I'll write a thesis and saying, yeah, I believe in, global warming, yeah, climate change, but we got to get these homeless people, this situation that must be fixed. For us to reduce our carbon urine on the streets and all this stuff, we need to fix the homeless problem and stop sending foreign aid. And then once we do that, once we fix the real problems, hey, I'm for climate change, yeah, whatever, yay. But we need to really tune into what's really, really, really happening here. And that's the problem. We're not. This debate, to me, was an absolute joke, in my opinion. I'm not a politician, but what they're not talking about, what we talk about here on this channel, that's job losses, weakness in the economy, shrinking economy, debt, expenditures, government spending more than what they're taxing. That's the problem. Competing for rich investors. 200. They never even spoke about money laundering in this essay. Listen to me, I say. They didn't even speak about the $200 billion that was laundered through real estate in Canada. They didn't even talk about that. Anyways. I'm going to let you guys go tonight. I want to read your comments later this evening on what you guys think. What's Canada to you? And if you're living in the United States, what do you see Canada as? Do you see it as the 51st state? Do you see it as a yoke under the British Commonwealth? If you're in Australia, what do you see Canada as? What do you see Canada as from your angle? If you're in New Zealand, tell us. If you're in the United Kingdom, what do you see Canada as? Go ahead and comment below. Where do you see us heading? I'd like to know. From the whole English-speaking world. Mike Martin signing off, Canadian Politics. Don't forget to support me on Patreon or tip me on my tip jar on YouTube. Thank you so much.